You're listening to the JD Rucker Show. Let's begin. Hello, friends. What a day. It's already been an incredibly packed news day, especially for a Friday. Fridays are generally the times when news is slow. You know, you might get a couple of bombshells drop in case government or someone else wants to put something out there that is they want buried. Friday afternoon, Friday evening is when you drop press releases and stories that you don't want anybody paying any attention to. And so put it out on Friday, hope that journalists and most people are already into their weekend, and then the story gets forgotten by Monday. But we didn't have that. We had other things dropping, in this case, planes dropping out of the sky once again. This seems to not quite be a trend. And there, to be clear, before anybody jumps on me, I'm not suggesting by any means that the Philadelphia plane crash that happened this evening was in any way associated with the nearby D.C. plane crash from Wednesday. These obviously seem to be two very different stories. Let's go ahead, and I'm going to be pulling up from time to time. I'm going to be pulling up Fox News, see what they're saying. I want to go cut to there now, just briefly, and then we'll get started with the show.
Were impacted. So what are we asking you to do for us right now, Philadelphia? We're urging you to please stay away from the scene. If you see debris, call 911. Don't touch anything. This is still an active scene under investigation.
We now go live to Fox News correspondent CB Cotton for the latest. She is live in Philadelphia. Hello, CB.
Hi, Jonathan. Well, this is going to be a long night for first responders. All the roads behind me are blocked off from where we're at, about a quarter mile away from where this medical transport plane crashed. Just moments after taking off, you can probably see some of the bright flashing lights behind me. All the first responders here getting settled in for the night because the investigation is just getting underway. I'm told by a local firefighters union that this was a pretty horrific and gruesome scene when the first responders arrived. I'm told there were multiple fatalities.
We'll keep that up, but until they say anything of importance, there's no need to listen to them rehash. I can rehash it for you real quick for those who maybe aren't aware. This comes to us from ABC 6 in Philadelphia. Pediatric patient among the 6 people on the plane that crashed in northeast Philadelphia. Medical transport plane carrying a child, her mother, and 4 other people went down in a fiery crash near a mall in northeast Philadelphia on Friday. The Learjet 55 crashed near the Roosevelt Mall around 6:30 p.m. after departing from northeast Philadelphia Airport, according to authorities. And just recap quick. So this was it was a Mexican plane, Mexican pilot and crew, Mexican child, who had come to the United States as part of for emergency medical treatment, was treated, and then was leaving. And shortly after takeoff, they went down. I'm going to play the video from of the actual crash, and you'll notice this doesn't. It's not like, you see these crashes and you see the planes kind of wobbling, or maybe this one at first glance you would swear, if you didn't know, you'd think, man, that looks like a missile. I mean, it looked just like a missile coming straight down almost, very, very steep angle, very, very fast. It didn't appear to be just falling out of the sky. It seemed to be like propelled downward, being almost as if it was intentional. Now, I'm not going to make any assumptions here, but it's hard for, for example, it's hard for, oops, I got to shut that down. Give me 1 second. Totally forgot. It is, and when I say hard, it's almost impossible for a plane to descend at that rate in crash without there being some sort of intention. Now, again, I'm not suggesting that the pilots, just went suicide and turned the nose forward and just went down as fast as they could. I'm not saying that that's what happened, but it's definitely not impossible. It doesn't make any sense, of course, because again, these were medical pilots, very, very well-trained, very seasoned medical pilots. They say they were doing as many as 400 to 600 missions per year. So these guys are back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, right? And so again, I'm not insinuating that it was intentional, but I don't think that we can take that off the table. Again, based upon the fact this didn't look like a plane that was trying to avoid crash. It looked as if the plane was heading downward at a very rapid speed. Again, I hate to say intent because we don't know the intent, but it didn't seem like your normal average small plane, trying to pull up and just unable to pull up, mechanical issues or anything like that. This seemed rather weird. I'm going to turn the audio off on the video itself because it is a bit the witnesses got a little salty, and we are a PG-13 as far as language goes. Not topics, but as far as language, we like to keep it PG-13 here. So here we go. There's the immediate aftermath. That's what it looked like right afterwards. People were obviously in shock. It's dark there at that point. CLC says that we are under attack. We're definitely under attack. I'm not going to assume that this is part of that attack, but I also, again, there's nothing, we have no information yet. We can't say for sure that this is not intentional. Jeez. There's the aerial view. I mean, just absolutely devastating. There's a Learjet 55 just after takeoff, so full of fuel. They also is a medical jet, so it had plenty of oxygen tanks, which are obviously also flammable. 6 people on board. NTSB will lead this particular investigation, as I'm sure they probably should. The mayor, who is not a good mayor by any means, kind of dumb, unintelligent, but to her credit, came right out and seemed to reveal everything that she knew. Yeah, immediately afterwards. And that sometimes, we want our leaders to be strong, we want them to be smart, we want them to be ideologically sound, but sometimes, especially during events like these, maybe the best thing is for a mayor to just be responsive and transparent. And I would say, I'll rip on Democrats all day, but if they do well, I was glad. The press conference didn't say much, but at least it was rapid, and there was an attempt to put people at ease. So kudos to her for that. Let's see if they're saying anything over at Fox News yet.
Being given credit for doing a great job. More to follow. God bless you all. And of course, Vice President JD Vance echoing those same sentiments on social media as well. Kevin.
Chanley for us. Thank you so much. Over to you, Jonathan.
Okay.
Joining us now, as our viewers know very well, John is also a licensed pilot. Good to have you with us, John. And as I look at that video, my extremely untrained eye, John, it strikes me as extraordinarily steep the descent was, how extraordinarily fast it was. That indicates that something absolutely catastrophic went wrong, John, because these planes don't just fall out of the sky with one engine failure or anything. They glide a little bit, John. So what does it say to you?
Well, you're right about the rate of descent. I just read on the aviation safety database that the rate of descent in the final seconds for that aircraft was 11,000 feet per minute. That's more than 2 miles a minute, and they only left from an altitude of 1,600 feet. So that final plunge was very, very quick. Maybe that's the good news here, is that the crew and the pilots didn't have much time to worry about what was happening to them. It was clearly a loss of control accident. Why that happened? Well, that's going to be for the NTSB to determine. I'm going out on a limb and thinking that they lost their instruments or they misread their instruments somehow. I was actually driving through Philadelphia tonight around the time of the crash. It was a very rainy, overcast night, foggy almost. The cloud layer was about 400 feet off the ground, according to the official weather reports of the airport. But to me, it seemed even lower than that. So when they took off, they would have been in the clouds almost instantly. And if they had an instrument failure, or maybe their dashboard, their panel lights went out and they weren't able to read their instruments, it could have led to the kind of situation that we saw. Also, and related to that, if for some reason they found that they were picking up speed or going too fast and they operated the controls too quickly, you can tear off some of the control surfaces of an airplane by muscling it too much, and that could happen. So if authorities find tomorrow that there's a piece of a horizontal stabilizer or a piece of one of the wing flaps or something in somebody's backyard well away from the explosion site, that's going to tell us a lot about what may have happened here.
So, John, those scenarios that you describe could lead to that kind of sudden descent, which seems to me to be almost at a right angle. It's going horizontal and then just a vertical drop. It just seems extraordinarily rare to me for that to happen to any modern aircraft.
Right. Well, there's something that we call a stall in aviation, which occurs when the plane exceeds its critical, it's called the critical angle of attack. So imagine your wing going up like this. The air flowing over the top of the wing has to stay attached to the wing in order to provide lift. If that wing gets at too much of an angle, the air tumbles over the top, peels away from the wing.
So this, to be clear, this definitely wasn't a plane stalling and maybe trying to recover. They had enough speed. If they had their flaps, they had enough speed, they would have been able to pull up if the intention was to pull up. I'll go ahead and throw it out there. Let's get the conspiracy theory out of the way, okay? Because I think it needs to be said. Do I imagine this being a suicidal captain? It's again possible, but it didn't seem likely, especially considering. Taking out a family. This is a mother and a daughter that had just received life-saving medical treatment. It didn't seem like that. It doesn't seem like, the Mexican terrorists hitting a mall parking lot. No, that doesn't seem to be the case. But if I were to throw out a conspiracy theory about any of this, it would be the idea that someone, you could say it's hackers, you could say it's, the control factors of the Chinese Communist Party or other state or NGO actors, anybody out there. We are, as a nation, and really as a world, but specifically here in the United States, we are extraordinarily dependent on technology. We allow technology to have control because we feel like we have control of the technology. But what if the technology can be controlled by someone else? What if it's not, for example, in this case, a pilot who's actually in control? What if, this plane turns into a drone controlled by whoever? It's funny. I don't know if I didn't see it in the chat, but CLC is thinking along the same lines. Sabotage or hacking. Remember the plane crashes in Europe a month ago? Yes, I do. we've had some very inexplicable crashes lately, and it's not just planes. If I were guessing, again, I'll put it out there. The most likely scenario in my mind is that something catastrophic happened, and this is probably an accident. Just as the most likely scenario from the Wednesday plane crash is that something crazy, something inexplicable, something happened. But I'm growing increasingly concerned that this is more than that. That these are test runs, so to speak. And if you can wrap your mind around that concept, and let's go ahead. I can see the video there. I'm going to take that off for now because it keeps distracting me. Okay, one more. Because this is a good one. This guy's got his ring cam out there, and he's just kind of going along, and all of a sudden behind him, there's just this plane coming out of the sky, pointing almost straight down. Yeah. If there was a group of hackers out there who could take control of helicopters, even Army helicopters, who could take control of this Mexican private jet, if they had that capability and they wanted to test to see, hey, we know what it looks like with a helicopter. We know what it looks like in Europe. We know what it looks like with this. Let's try a small jet. Let's just take control of it, point it down, and see what happens. Maybe shut off comms, make it to where they can't report. And I haven't heard yet. That's one thing I haven't heard. Maybe they're out there. If you're in the chat and you have heard the FAA recordings, if you heard from, I heard one earlier, but I didn't hear the pilot. The pilot, it was just all you could hear is what the air traffic controllers were saying. I couldn't hear what the pilots were saying. So anybody has knows where I can get words from the pilots, but it does seem conspicuous 2 days later that this would happen. And again, in both scenarios, both Wednesday and today, we are faced with what appears to be avoidable. Okay, in other words, a trained pilot, which in both cases we don't know who the pilot was for certain in the first one, but it was not like they say training mission, but it was basically a reaccreditation, right? It was somebody who already had experience, who knew how to fly a Black Hawk. So you got this Black Hawk with this plane coming, very easy to see. We can see. We've seen the angles from today's videos earlier today that show, hey, wow, yeah, seemed pretty obvious that the Black Hawk should have been able to see, night goggles or not, they should have been able to see the big, huge plane heading directly towards them for several seconds. Okay, it wasn't like this was just out of the blue, the plane veers or the helicopter veers. Nobody veered. Why not? And in this, we see the video. It's not like the pilot was trying to fight with the wheel with a stick to try to level off. It was like going, just took off, and then all of a sudden, almost straight down, like a missile. Accelerating, it seemed. So, if we can put it out there as a possibility, I'm not saying anything definitive, but as a possibility that we are under attack and that somebody or something, look, the idea that artificial general intelligence is coming this year, I think, is ludicrous. I think that somebody has had access to and has been deploying artificial general intelligence for quite some time. And for those who aren't familiar, once you have AGI and enough of a data set, ASI, artificial superintelligence, is literally, at best months away, if not weeks or days, because with artificial general intelligence and a vast data set, such as, for example, the internet, ASI can be self-replicating. ASI can be basically self-creating, and that's something that has been a concern. What if it does exist? What if it's existed for a long time? I'm just throwing that out there. Since we're talking conspiracy theories, might as well go all in, right? It is weird that both a helicopter that seemed very capable of veering away at any moment didn't, a plane that seemed intended to hit the ground, not to coast in and try to unfortunate crash. It looked like they went into missile mode again, and also strangely enough in a very heavily populated area. It's not like they they were heading towards Missouri and then to Tijuana. That was where this plane was supposed to go. Yeah, there's a lot of land between Philadelphia and Missouri, Missouri and Tijuana. There's a lot of land where they could have had some sort of crazy event happen. Something happens that causes this type of crash. And yet it happens in the middle of a city with all sorts of, we're going to get 50 different angles, 100 different angles of this. Over the weekend, there's going to be more angles of this crash than we've seen. We're already seeing brand new angles popping up of the American Airlines, the helicopter crash in D.C. So every bit of information keeps telling me more and more and more that there's the possibility that we're under attack. Somebody's hacking us. And if that were the case, you might say, oh, well, we would know. Would we? I mean, if it were determined that this is the case, if the government knew, if Trump knew, if Sean Duffy knew, I mean, he's been in office for 3 days and has 2 crashes on his hands. I'm not blaming him, to be clear. I'm just saying that, he might want to go back in time and not accept the job. Then again, I mean, Sean Duffy's a good guy. He probably is. I definitely want to take the job. If this is what we're going to face, I want to be the guy that faces it. I think he would be that kind of guy. I hope he is. And we will see. We'll see if he is. But with that said, if they do have suspicions, or maybe even they know that our our planes, now one Army helicopter and one Mexican plane, that they could be hacked, controlled, turned into drones, and then intentionally crashed. If that news got out, there would be travel in the United States of America would cease for an extended period of time, perhaps indefinitely. We would fail. As a nation, it would turn into a very sudden economic collapse. We're talking 2-3 days before revolt, rebellion. They'd have to try to install martial law. I mean, it's not hyperbole. I'm not throwing out a scenario here that's out of the question. The nation would collapse if it were determined and revealed that our aviation system had been compromised to the point to where we could no longer travel by plane. CLC in the chat says sentient AI has existed for almost a decade. It got out of the containers holding it 80 miles off California coast in Pacific. Yeah, JDRucker.com/talk, JDRucker.com/talk. That's how anybody can reach out to me directly. If you got some information, I'm always looking, but I try to keep very, what's the word for it? I always try to keep very grounded, right? I'm a conspiracy theorist, but I never want to push anything too far. Case in point, by the way, last night on last night's show live, close to the end of the show, got a word that it appeared that the pilot of the helicopter, the Black Hawk, that this pilot was a anti-Trump transgender person, and that who had been on a podcast the day before, ripping on the end of DEI and all of that stuff. It's like, wow, that's kind of crazy, because that would really shift the narrative. So I went and looked into it. I investigated. The best piece of quote-unquote evidence that I was able to find was that you go to this person's Facebook page, and they had changed, like 3 hours before, they had changed their Facebook profile to it was a ribbon commemorating the event. There were no posts, just that change of profile picture, which had been done 3 hours before, and then no posts since like December. I think only 2 public posts, period. It wasn't a very active account, but it seemed as if for the crash that this person had done that. It's like, it's not exactly evidence, but it's like, okay, well, that would fit if it were true. But I looked into it. I went to Reddit. I went to all various kinds of places. I saw a lot of people saying it was confirmed, but then nobody actually showing confirmation. The next morning I wake up, a lot of people showing, oh, it's been confirmed that this person in this battalion's doing this thing and blah, 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 blah. Well, then, I'm still researching, and I go to that person's Facebook page, and they have a video up there, a proof of life video saying, this is crazy. Wasn't me. I'm still here. I'm still alive. This is, I'm here. No, it wasn't me on the Black Hawk. It wasn't even the same battalion. Don't know what you guys are talking about. So, I'm not that guy that's going to just post conspiracies without having some variation of confirmation. In this case, you might say, well, you got no confirmation these are drones. No, we don't. What we have are two very suspicious events. It wasn't a random helicopter hitting a plane. Once you see the videos, and I don't have it, I would show you. I'm sure everybody's seen it. But once you see the videos, especially the ones that were released Friday, the videos show that the helicopter is just going along the Potomac straight, and you can see based upon this new angle that it would be impossible, even with night vision goggles, for them not to see this big plane with super bright lights pointing right at them. I mean, if it had been taken control, if it had been droned, again, by whoever, Chinese Communist Party, artificial intelligence, whatever, if that had happened, then that's exactly how it would have gone down. Okay, if anything, maybe they would have tried to veer into the jet. I don't know. And the video was grainy enough to where you couldn't say for certain that it wasn't. They didn't veer at the last second, or maybe, I don't know. The point is that was very suspicious. It still is very suspicious. And by itself, okay, something weird. If that by itself, I would have been more aligned with like some craziness in the cockpit than AI or drone or hackers, China, North Korea, Iran. People don't realize that you've got the United States as far as cybersecurity, cyber intelligence, hacking. You got the United States, which is there at the top, arguably right at, or some would say just below, someone would say just above China. But right below them, us and China, you've got, and some would say again, possibly even higher than China and the U.S., you've got Israel, which is to be expected. You've got North Korea, which is somewhat to be expected, but a little bit more surprising. But you got Iran. Iran has one of the most sophisticated cyber attack units out there. They've become very good at this, despite being hampered, of course, by certain restrictions. And but they've put a lot of effort and emphasis into being able to not only attack but also to defend. Because with Stuxnet, don't get me started. The whole Stuxnet thing with the U.S. and Israel taking out their nuclear facilities at one point was probably 15 years ago. At that point, I think they decided they got to get into cyber. They did, and they've done a pretty darn good job of it. Okay, there are other nations that are doing well, but those are the main ones. Those are the big players. Notice I didn't mention Russia. Russia has been mediocre at best when it comes to cyber, but the others, including the U.S., including China, including Iran, have done a fantastic job at it. So again, helicopter accident happens. By itself, I'm thinking pilot. But now that we've got two that, again, in both situations, it seemed as if the pilot was either intentionally doing something wrong or just something crazy, inexplicable, unprecedented happened in both scenarios, or three, they were droned. I have no evidence. And I don't doubt we'll get any evidence. And part of me hopes, not just part of me, everything hopes that we don't get evidence of this. Because if it is the case, again, then we are on the verge of economic and possibly even societal collapse in the United States of America. You can say, oh, no, it wouldn't be so bad. It would be so bad. It really would be so bad. I'm going to go back to Fox News real quick. It looks like they have some sort of an update there. Let's see what they've got going on.
And much more after a quick timeout.
They got a break. All right. Good timing there, Rucker. So, scratch that one. We will get back to this story throughout the night. I don't want to let this one go, but I just want to throw it out there that if you were the Chinese Communist Party, President Trump comes into office, you want to be ready to attack at any moment, then chances are you would do some test runs. And those test runs could be a helicopter followed by a Learjet. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying it's possible. I'm saying we cannot dismiss it. There's no evidence that says that it's not possible. But that wasn't the only news that happened today. There's been actually quite a bit of news over at the Right Scoop. President Trump is set to, and it has now happened, set to fire tons of FBI agents by the end of the day. The day, of course, has ended. If you're on the East Coast, it's already Saturday. So yeah, did he do it? He did. President Trump is set to fire tons of FBI agents who worked on the investigation of January 6ers and those that targeted him and are with criminal investigations. According to CNN, the Trump administration is set to expand a purge of career law enforcement officials with dozens of FBI agents who worked on the January 6th Capitol case and Trump-related investigations, as well as some supervisors being evaluated for possible removal as soon as by the end of the day Friday, according to people briefed on the matter. Changes highlighted now that the new administration has moved quickly to deliver on President Trump's vow to strike back at the Justice Department and the FBI. And it's really not striking back against the Justice Department or the FBI. That's why I hate reading anything from CNN. What he said was, and what he's been very clear about, is that he wants to take down the deep state. And part of that is getting rid of these career bureaucrats, these career spooks, these career law enforcement agents, the people that basically, as I worded it on X earlier today, Christopher Wray's posse. Now a lot of them started before Christopher Wray did, but they have the leadership team over the FBI, many of whom have been recently promoted. This is Christopher Wray's posse. This was his attempt. The reason that he didn't quit immediately, that he extended his time a bit, and then he had somebody else hop in there who then quit on Inauguration Day from leading the FBI. The reason for all this is to try to Trump-proof the FBI. They were trying to keep things covered up. They were trying to keep people in place. They thought there's going to be carnage, and there will be carnage. Were they successful in covering some stuff up? Unfortunately, almost certainly yes. They were able to cover up the deepest, darkest secrets and keep those away from Donald Trump and, of course, Kash Patel, who, Lord willing, will be the next confirmed FBI director. This really is, again, not about going after the Pentagon or the Department of Justice or anything like that. He's not bringing in people that are supposed to assassinate our quote unquote good guys. He's bringing in people who can finally bring sanity back to, maybe for the first time I say back to, that's assuming that there ever was sanity in the FBI or even the Pentagon. We're going to try to bring back sanity and accountability. That's what he's really wanted to do. As Jack Montgomery over the National Pulse posted, Kassam says Trump's purge of the deep state made men at the FBI heralds epic meltdowns. Raheem Kassam, editor-in-chief of the National Pulse, is predicting meltdowns on a grand scale now that President Trump has moved to purge the FBI leadership. And there's a quote from Kassam. I think the unprecedented nature of this is what's really rocking Washington, D.C. to its core this evening. A lot of these people have gone through their lives thinking of themselves as made men. For those who aren't familiar with the term, as it refers to the mafia, people that are got to be Sicilian, got to be part of the family, in a very mafioso sense of the word, in that it is coming undone in front of their eyes. Kassam had told War Room host Stephen Bannon. Kassam noted this is only the first step for the second Trump administration, as if you go in this hard, what you're showing is that you're going to clean house entirely, because these were some of the worst senior people some of the people who were in charge of the persecution against President Trump over the past 4 years. Now, Trump. Here's the thing: Trump's got this reputation as being like vindictive, and I'm sorry, but that's not an appropriate reality. His rhetoric can be vindictive. Okay, when somebody gets on his bad side, he will hammer them. And you might say, well, but he pulled all of those 51 senior security, and former security intelligence officers. He pulled all of their credentials, their access, and all that stuff. And some of them that still had like protection, he pulled down the protection, like John Bolton. And oh my gosh, that's vindictive. No, these are people, to be clear, these 51 intelligence agents that said that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation. They knew with 100% certainty that it was not Russian disinformation. They knew this. They lied to the American people. They were given positions of authority. They were allowed access to top secret information. They were trusted. They were going on MSNBC and CNN and Fox News. They were being, heralded as the good guys. They lied. They deceived the American people. They engaged in the 2020 coup. And that's what it was. Okay? The more we learn every day, and I was saying this coup since 2020, but they had somebody who was right, or who should have been rightly elected in 2020 to continue serving as president of the United States for his second term, starting in January 20th, 2021. Instead, these 51 intelligence officers defied the Constitution. They went against the United States Constitution. They went against Americans, the will of the people. They went against the United States of America itself. So don't tell me, Trump's just being vindictive. No, Trump is purging people who are enemies of the United States of America. If you don't see that these people are our enemies, and you think that this is just retaliation, then you're not paying any attention or something. Because, again, these people, they lied to America in an effort to help somebody who would not have won the election without massive widespread voter fraud, massive propaganda, gaslighting, and in many ways indoctrination from legacy media, and of course the stifling, the suppression, the subversion of information regarding the Hunter Biden laptop, which 17% of Biden voters said that had they known about the laptop and understood its validity, they wouldn't have voted for Biden. That would have changed the election. They knew this. They weren't stupid. You don't get to be one of these 51 magical intelligence and former and current intelligence officers. You don't get to that position by being stupid. You get to that position by being, in many cases, devious. But here's the thing. If you're devious on behalf of the United States of America, okay, then you're a spy and you're helping. If you're devious against the United States of America, if you're lying to the American people in order to put in a false regime, then you are a traitor. So this isn't about him being vindictive. This is about cleaning house of the people who do damage to the United States of America. We better take a break. I had no idea. It's funny because when I do my Frank Speech show, which is returning next week, by the way, when I do my Frank Speech show, I almost get antsy, right? Because I know that I've got a certain time frame. I've got to get everything done into segments. Those segments have to allow for certain commercial breaks, and it's got to all fit into exactly 56 minutes and 0 seconds, no more, no less. And I'm very time conscious. When I do the live show, I just go and I look down and it's like, holy crap, it's been like 40 minutes already. I haven't even taken a break. Let's take a quick break. Short one, and then I'll be right back. Whether you've been a prepper for a long time or maybe you're just getting started, you're just looking around and thinking how crazy it is, we usually cover the basics. You get your food, you get your water, you get your ammunition. Don't forget your ammo. You get your battery charger, solar battery chargers, or whatever. But a lot of times I think people will forget their meds, okay? Whether it's chronic meds, antibiotics. I think a lot of people don't even realize that you can stock up on that stuff. They go to the doctor, they go to the pharmacy, and the pharmacist said, oh, here's your 2-month supply or whatever. Well, you can actually stock up on a lot of these meds by going to jdrucker.com/meds. You'll talk to the good folks over at Jace Medical. They can get you a 12-month supply of certain prescription drugs. They can get you emergency meds, all sorts of good stuff, things that you may or may not need, but it's always good to have it on hand because I guarantee you, even if you don't think you need it today, you might need it in the future. jdrucker.com/meds. That ad was apropos, by the way. You should be stocking up because if things do go south, it's not going to be like, oh, okay, well, we're going to have problems in the next 6 months. We're going to have problems in the next 2 years. No, it's going to be like, holy crap. You mean I can't get meds anymore at the pharmacy? The pharmacies are shutting down. There's martial law. I'm not trying to be clear. I don't want to be like a fearmonger here, all right? But I am saying that if a third jet goes down anytime in the next month, I'm going to be very much screaming that this is an attack. Because that's what it currently feels like. Fox News is currently on a break. Once they get off break, we will turn to them just for a quick update to see if they have any new information. Oh wow, they're on a long break. Jeez, that'll be a while. So that's good. No, I'm glad because yeah, I'll admit I really hate it. I hate having to rely on Fox News, but they do when you have national events like this. It is important to get somebody who has the resources. That's it. It just comes down to resources. They can actually put people on the ground. I would love to go to whoever, War Room or Newsmax even, or OAN or whatever. I've tried. Unfortunately, a lot of times they're just regurgitating the same thing that I am. So there's no point. We need people who have affiliates and resources. Unfortunately, that means, I guess it's the last hurrah of legacy media is for events like this. Otherwise, we don't need them. We don't need legacy media for reporting on anything. Because, like, for example, Trump comes out and says something on Truth Social or Carolyn Leavitt goes out there and does her thing with the press. We don't need people on the ground to be able to receive the information, the data that's out there. Except for situations like this where, again, it certainly does help to have people there physically in Philadelphia that they can call on to get hands-on, and in-the-moment information. Yes, AIs. Yeah, it's just jdrucker.com/talk is the easiest way to contact me. Or if you prefer X, I have open DMs on X, x.com/JDRucker. And that was to anybody who has any information they want to send me about anything at all. Here's a quick feel good. Not feel good. It's actually a very sad story because it involves murder. But I have a quick commentary. We're going to get to a lot of these stories. We've got a lot more stories to cover tonight. But just a quick commentary about a change that I've seen in this new generation of kids. We already know they're weak. I'll cover that later. But they get shocked and surprised. In this case, this 16-year-old kid who murdered somebody, tried to murder somebody else, is actually shocked that he's not going to be set free. I mean, absolutely shocked. How is that possible? That's my question. Let's go ahead and play that.
Sean Simpson came into Gaston County Court at points wiping away his tears as he stood before a judge. Just 16 years old, he's being charged with first-degree murder as an adult. That's as a result of a law change that went into effect in December, which allows teens his age to be charged as an adult in certain crimes. There was a realization that during this proceeding that the gravity was hitting him, a grand jury indictment that could come in the near future, and a moment that hit when a judge told him that he would not be seeing freedom anytime soon.
Court may impose a hold without bond. Court finds sufficient allegations to support the charges. Considering the relevant factors, the charges, he is ordered held without bond.
This moment is tough to watch, but it was something that Zaquavius Dawkins' family says they needed to be here for. Simpson accused of killing Dawkins Sunday night along Chester Street. Simpson also accused with attempted first-degree murder involving another victim. Dawkins' family says he was going to get medical supplies for his mother when he was killed. After Wednesday's court appearance, things were still raw for Dawkins' family.
It's affected everybody, even the neighborhood.
Did I just miss it? I mean, has this always been the case? Have these kids always been completely oblivious to consequences of their actions? To me, it feels like this is more of a new thing. This generation is worse than the past. I know the kids have always been stupid. I was stupid as a kid. But like, if I had shot somebody and murdered them, I wouldn't be surprised that they didn't want to let me back out on the streets. I wouldn't be crying thinking, oh my gosh, this is such a shocker that I'm going to have to go to jail for murdering somebody while I'm waiting trial. All right, let's go to cut real quick to Fox News.
To a different controller. That seems curious to me. What do you make of that, if at all, anything?
Oh, thanks, Kevin. Great to be with you on a tough night. I think it does show that both pilots were involved. It is true that one pilot typically monitors radios, another pilot's going to be on the flight controls. But sometimes it can get busy in the cockpit as folks are taking off. And so if the other pilot was in the middle of doing something, that pilot could just jump in and make the radio call, and off they go. So I wouldn't necessarily read a ton into that, but certainly one piece of this puzzle as it gets put together. They'll look at what each pilot was doing in this crazy flight that only lasted for a few minutes, as has been discussed.
I've been looking carefully also, Brent, at the video, and I see flames before it strikes the ground. Maybe that's my impression. Again, I'm not a licensed pilot. I know quite a bit about these sort of things. And when you see that, what does that say to you?
I see that too. And night is tough, right? There's lights on the airplane. It's moving through the air quickly. There's moisture in the atmosphere. So different things can cause that glow. But I agree. And I think one of the things that it's going to be really important to look at is what was the maintenance history on this airplane? There was talk earlier tonight. I know of the maybe some maintenance challenges this company has had in the past. They had an airplane that overran a runway. I think that's something that will be looked at, is what's the history. But I will point out that this airplane landed earlier in the day, just a few hours before, from Miami. The day before that, it had been flying through the Caribbean. It flew over from Albuquerque before that. So this airplane has been moving around the country for quite a bit of time before this incident occurred. So it's one of those things, though. Maintenance gets put off. Maybe they're in a hurry to get back to Tijuana, get the child home. Certainly understandable. But where their corners cut on maintenance in between that, perhaps I think that's something that will definitely be important for NTSB investigators to look at, is what was the maintenance history for this particular aircraft? Were there things that should have been fixed? And sometimes when there's urgency to get someone home, then sometimes corners can be cut. And I think that'll be something that investigators certainly want to look at in this situation.
Great stuff, as always, from Brent Anderson, former retired Army captain, former Army helicopter pilot. I'm going to guess longbows.
So I'm not going to go after an expert on this particular one, but that doesn't quite pass the smell test for me. Corners cut. This, again, it'd be different if this plane had just glided and was going around, trying to figure out where to land or communicating, Mayday, something. So far, what we know is that the plane took off and then it pointed its nose downward, and that was pretty much it. It accelerated downward. It was going at a very rapid rate of speed. So, for those who are new to if you didn't catch it earlier, I'm just saying that it's possible, very possible, after 2 incidences in 3 days, 2 inexplicable incidences, I think that it is very possible that we are under attack, that these are trial runs of some entity, some organization, some nation, some terrorist group here in America, abroad, wherever, somebody possibly is taking control of our aircraft. Again, we only got 2, okay? 2 is awfully suspicious, especially 2 in 3 days. If we have 3, then I will freak the crud out. Again, I've got Fox News. I'm watching. Any new developments, we will cut straight to that. But let's get to some other stories here. There was some weirdness coming out of China, of all places. InfoWars reporting that a former Federal Reserve advisor has been arrested for passing trade secrets to China. Rogers, let's cut past the AI-generated recap. A former senior advisor to the Federal Reserve, John Harold Rogers, was arrested on charges that he conspired to steal Fed trade secrets for the benefits of the People's Republic of China, the Justice Department announced on Friday. Rogers, 63, worked as a senior advisor in the Division of the International Finance of the Federal Reserve Board of Governors from 2010 to 2021, where he was entrusted with confidential information. Rogers faces 15 years and a maximum fine of $5 million for conspiracy to commit economic espionage, as well as 5 years for making false statements. And just in case we don't realize it, or maybe some of you aren't aware, China's economy is in a state of perpetual near collapse, okay? And it's always hard to tell because with China, they keep so much of the information secret, not just from the rest of the world, but from their own people, okay? And they have, of course, an iron grip. The Chinese Communist Party has an iron grip over those people who might be in the know, and they know that if they go against, something crazy is going to happen to them and possibly their families if they go against the party. The Chinese Communist Party reigns supreme even over China itself. In other words, like, protection of the CCP is a higher priority than protection of China or its people. And so they are in trouble, and they are looking for the easiest way for them. And this is an unfortunate reality for us, but the easiest way for them to be able to bolster their own economy is to harm ours, to take advantage of ours. I'm not suggesting that they want us to immediately crash yet, but they can gain by our slow demise, and at a certain point, it will be where they will can only gain by our rapid demise. Vice versa is to some extent true, though we are unfortunately more dependent upon them than they are of us from an economic perspective. They are the producers, we are the consumers in many ways, and that is one of the reasons why these tariffs that President Trump is imposing, starting today, or technically I guess tomorrow, no, today if you're on the East Coast, these tariffs will play an important role as long as they're used properly, as long as they are used as a way to take back control of trade, to use it as both incentive as well as punishment for those who don't help us. We need Canada and Mexico and the European Union and China to work with us. And this is where President Trump comes in, and why he might be, not might, I think that he is the ideal person to be able to help us with this. Do I want to skip that one? No, let's go straight into it. You know what? Before I get into that, just a quick note as far as the Federal Reserve today. We've been talking about interest rates a lot. We've been talking about the national debt a lot. The stock market had another awful day, 300 points, if I recall, down. And this highlights something that I think, before President Trump's election, there was a lot of people that were terrified of the economy. A lot of people were terrified of the economy. And as a result, they were moving out of the stock market. Some of my partners, some of my sponsors, for example, Genesis Gold Group, Block Trust IRA, these are all partners that strive to help people move their retirement accounts from stock markets or other assets into, in one case with Genesis, into physical precious metals, in the other case with Block Trust IRA, into cryptocurrencies. So it does make sense, I think, and I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not giving you financial advice, but if you are one of those who's considering and you should at least consider it. Make a move to move your IRA, your 401k, your government retirement accounts, whatever. Move your retirement out of where it is now and into physical precious metals or cryptocurrencies or both. Then you should reach out to my friends. You can go to jdrgold.com, JDR, initials, jdrgold.com to work with Genesis Gold Group. You'll get a, whatever it is, wealth protection kit. Or you can go to JDR Crypto, jdrcrypto.com, and they can help you with a tax-free rollover or transfer of some or all or of your current retirement accounts into an account that is backed by cryptocurrency. 60 different cryptocurrencies, as a matter of fact. Bitcoin, obviously Ethereum, and then I guess 58 others if my math is correct. Liberty Talk, thank you so much. The insomnia stream that we all need right now. We do need this stream. But let's get back to tariffs here real quick. Zero Hedge reporting that Trump slaps 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico and 10% on China. Tomorrow, or today if you're on the East Coast, February 1st, the Trump administration will slap 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico and a 10% tariff on China, as announced during Friday's press briefing by White House spokesperson Carolyn Leavitt, who denied reports of a delay to March 1st. They were saying, oh, is he going to wait? Nope, not waiting. There will be no delays, selective targeting, or slow rollout of phase-in tariffs, as speculated by Goldman Sachs and Deutsche Bank. That said, there could be certain exemptions, such as for oil and gas, which Leavitt did not elaborate on. For now, all we have to go on is Trump's most recent comments on oil. And he said on Thursday, it depends on what the price is. If the oil is properly priced, if they treat us properly, which they don't, then there will be no tariffs. But apparently, it looks like they're moving forward. The United States imported nearly 4.6 million barrels of oil per day from Canada in October and 563,000 barrels from Mexico. Daily U.S. production over the same period averaged nearly 13.5 million barrels per day, which is why he and we say drill, baby, drill. So in this scenario, full tariffs with zero quarter given we would expect to see USDCAD move decidedly higher come Monday, challenging the 1.5 level and representing a more than 3% move higher in the cross relative to current spot. To be clear, Canada could retaliate with dollar-for-dollar tariffs in absolute terms, since its trade relationship with the U.S. is balanced. However, USDCAD will still be higher, given that the U.S. economy is more than 10 times the size of the Canadian counterpart. So what did Justin Trudeau say? Do we care? No, not really. But let's go ahead and, let's give Fidel Castro's son some information. Trudeau promises, and this comes to us from Blaze Media, Trudeau promises forceful and immediate response from Canada to Trump's tariffs. I am terrified. That's it. That's the whole story. No, it goes more than that. Trump hit Canada with the hefty tariff starting Saturday. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said Canada is ready with a forceful and immediate response to tariffs that will be enforced as early as Saturday. Hey, they're going to match us. President Trump followed through on a threat to impose debilitating tariffs on goods from Canada, Mexico, and China. Trudeau signaled that he would respond with tariffs on U.S. products, likely sparking a trade war with Canada. And I've got friends in Canada. I love Canada, to be clear. I love the people of Canada. The government of Canada is garbage. Okay, might as well be the government of France or the government of Iran. There's just no sense of freedom or stability. It's just crave power. It is what it is. We are in a critical moment. As President Trump stated yesterday, he's still committed to placing tariffs on Canada starting on early as tomorrow, possibly, said Trudeau. Now, we don't know precisely what that could look like, but I do know two things. First, if the president does choose to implement any tariffs against Canada, we're ready with a response, a purposeful, forceful, but reasonable, immediate response. It's not what we want, but if he moves forward, we will also act. And again, I'm not trying to downplay. I don't want tariffs against us any more than I really want tariffs against anybody else. I like tariffs to be able to to balance the economy, I like tariffs to be able to generate revenue, as the United States used to do way back when. I mean, we haven't always been a tax-driven society, a tax-funded government. And could we ever get back to those days where we get the lion's share of our federal government revenue from tariffs? I think we could. But to do that, we'd have to start cutting a whole bunch of costs because tariffs won't be enough. They wouldn't be enough. We wouldn't be able to raise tariffs fast enough to be able to afford the costs that are currently associated with government. There we go. Liberty Talk says, liberate Canada, expel the crown from the North American continent. Once and for, we're a quarter millennium overdue for the expulsion of the crown from the American continent. And as Liberty Talk said, 1789 to 1913, tariffs and excise tax, exactly. CLCC, I got to get that right. CLC says, how do you get 100 Canadians to do something? You ask nicely. So we are asking nicely, pay our tariffs or get everything fixed. And it's not just about the price of oil, to be clear. On Inauguration Day, we had challenges with the Canadian border that resulted in the murder, the assassination, apparently by a terrorist, of a Border Patrol officer. So there's more to this. We can and we should have an amazing relationship with Canada. And we do. I think many of us have amazing relationships with our Canadian brothers and sisters. I mean, they are... Look, all I got to say, I know a lot of people say, oh, it's about the maple syrup. Yeah, it's the poutine. Don't get me started. But it's not just Europe. Oh, sorry, there, I spoiled the joke. It's not just Canada, Mexico, and China that has to worry. It is also that the European Union might be in the crosshairs. According to William Upton over at the National Pulse, Trump says he will absolutely impose tariffs on the European Union. Here we go. President Trump says he is considering imposing tariffs on goods imported from the European Union. The move would mark a significant escalation in his government's efforts to end unfair trade imbalance around the globe. Am I going to impose tariffs on the European Union? Trump posited during a press event in the Oval Office while signing a new series of executive orders. He continued, do you want a truthful answer or do you want me to give you a political answer? Absolutely, he said regarding the possible foreign trade measures, adding the European Union has treated us terribly, and they really, truly, legitimately have. All right, looks like there might be some information coming. Let's go ahead and get back to Fox News real quick, see if they have anything important to say.
This crash happened during rush hour traffic, and I want our viewers to take a look at this because the impacts are far-reaching. This is a piece of debris that flew through a diner window, hitting a customer. A diner employee tells me the customer was bleeding, but thankfully okay, and had to be taken to the hospital for a small treatment. And of course, we know the images of the crash are just horrific. So just after 6 p.m. today, the plane was captured erupting into a huge fireball near Cottman Avenue and Roosevelt Boulevard here in Philly. We know several homes caught fire, and thankfully firefighters were able to get the people out of those homes, and the fires are now under control. So now the investigation gets underway into how this happened. We know members of the NTSB are here on the ground. We've got a slew of state troopers along with members of the State Department of Transportation, and of course we're going to be out here throughout the night to monitor the scene and see what happens. I've talked to a couple of witnesses here. One man describing the crash, he said it felt like an earthquake. Kevin.
Yeah, incredible pictures, and I'm glad you mentioned the fact that there are some structures also on fire. Sort of reminded me of the Move bombing from all the way back in 1985. Again, row houses, tightly packed community. Scary times there in Philadelphia. CB, thank you so much for that. Let's head over to Jonathan Hunt.
Kevin, a huge local, state and federal response to the crash. As you would imagine, job one, saving lives, but already, of course, an investigation into how it happened is underway. For more on the government response, we turn now to Fox News' Channel's Chanley Painter. Hello, Chanley.
Hey, Jonathan. Yeah, we are seeing a massive and unified, multi-layered government response to this tragedy. Many agencies immediately on the ground working the scene, offering resources from local authorities and officials to state agencies, including at least 45 state troopers, members of the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Authority, and the Department of Environmental Protection, to elected state officials, including the governor, as well as federal agencies. At least 4 members of the FAA have been dispatched. The FAA is posting these details about the crash, saying it and the NTSB are both investigating, and, quote, the NTSB will lead the investigation and will provide all updates. The NTSB making clear they have 1 person on the ground now and additional team members arriving later this morning on Saturday. In a press conference, the Philadelphia mayor and Pennsylvania governor expressed gratitude for a unified response.
Okay. Yeah. Again, we'll get more on this. Lord willing, we'll get more information about this later. But if we don't, because let's face it, we're not getting, I mean, it's 3 days after. They know who the pilot is. They know they've had time to contact the pilot of the Black Hawk. Why don't we know who that is yet? That's a concern. It is definitely a concern that we don't know who piloted that. I mean, are they just having a hard time locating the family, the next of kin? If that's the case, then I take it back. But otherwise, it all seems all sorts of very much odd, especially in light of this second plane crash in 3 days. And it's not just the fact that, because, you know, crazier things have happened. It's not just the fact that there was another plane crash. It's the fact that in both cases, the video shows something inexplicable. In the case of the helicopter, the Black Hawk helicopter, it appeared that they had plenty of time to veer away and instead stayed the course all the way into collision. In the case of the Philadelphia crash, it appears that instead of a plane leveling off or trying to not crash, it looked like they had pointed their nose downward and became a missile, accelerating until they hit the ground and caused a dramatic and deadly explosion. And again, in that particular case, I cannot fathom this being something intentional by the pilots, because we're talking about, these are medical pilots from Mexico with a 5-year-old patient on board and her mother. We're talking about a scenario that just doesn't have, I mean, if I'm wrong, I will be happy to admit I'm wrong, but I cannot picture this as, you know, suicidal pilot or anything like that. This just does feel more like the increasingly plausible scenario of drone-style takeovers of aircraft here in the United States of America. We know that it's possible. Let's be clear about that. I mean, we're talking about, it doesn't take a whole lot of lines of code to be injected into the flight systems for a vehicle, certain, not any aircraft, but for certain aircrafts to essentially become drones. And we even saw 3 months ago, I don't remember who it was, but there was a company that was talking about how they had mastered the art of drone flying a Black Hawk helicopter. This being a Learjet, you would think, that this might actually be, to some extent, a bit easier. They already have autopilot measures in place. What if the autopilot measures themselves could be? And I'll say it up front. I'm speculating. I got no evidence of anything I'm saying right now. Okay, so there's no like, oh, you know, I've dug deeper. I had my secret source. That bugs me to death, by the way, when you got these people that say, oh, my secret source at the CIA, FBI, NSA, you know, they're part of the KGB, they're part of Mossad. It's like, I roll my eyes. I do have secret sources, by the way. I do. I have 2. And both of them have been very, very good and very accurate. They have nothing to do with the deep state, though. They're within the Democrat Party. That's a whole other situation. And I'm probably not going to hear from them for the next 4 years because there's not much Democrats can or are going to do. So, but they have given me information in the past. I don't want to say that all secret sources are bad, but it just bugs me when, when I hear these shows talking about how their guy on the inside says that this is definitely a drone attack. I mean, again, it could be, but we're speculating. That's it. And it's okay to speculate. As long as you don't say it's been confirmed that this was taken over, that apparently there was a drone pilot in the area, and they first remotely took control of the Black Hawk helicopter, and then they drove over to Philadelphia, and this is all a test run. They've got 50 of these guys spread around the country, and yada yada yada. I don't know. I mean, let's just stick with what we know, and let's speculate about what seems to fit. And unfortunately, in this case, it does seem to fit the possibility, based upon everything that we've seen, that remote access could have been acquired of both the Black Hawk helicopter and now this Learjet in Philadelphia. And if that were the case, then all of this starts to make more sense. It makes sense why the Black Hawk flew too high and then did not avoid the American Airlines flight. It would make sense why this jet that has been flying multiple flights, flew a flight today, how it could go from takeoff to becoming essentially a nose-pointed down missile, accelerating for full effect in a major metro area. If we hold that as a possibility, that they could be part of an attack, a test run, we'll say, then pray, because we will not be able to survive this without the Lord's help. I guarantee you. This is, if we were to shut down all air travel in the United States of America for any extended period of time, worse than 9/11 type stuff, then yeah, we're in deep trouble. And we saw what happened. 9/11 crippled the nation. And that was physical, terrorists in these planes. What if they could access? What if they don't need pilots? What if they don't need to try to make it around TSA? What if they don't need to bust through the cockpit door? What if they don't need to use box cutters? What if they can just sit a kid in front of a computer, and then all of a sudden, you've got these essentially drone pilots stationed anywhere in the world doing whatever they want to do with whatever planes they want. I'm not trying to scare you all, but I don't think we can ignore it given the situation. Let's take a short break and get back. We'll get into some happy news. There has been some good happy news as it pertains to the border. There's one real. There's been some amazing news ever since President Trump won the election, and even more amazing news ever since he was inaugurated and taken control. This one is, I think the border is the especially best news that I've seen really in a long time. From a political perspective, I would say that Tom Homan, Border Patrol, ICE, they have far exceeded my expectations in the first 2 weeks. Well, I guess it's been barely a week and a half. So awesome stuff. Be right back. Last year, my long-term storage food company, Prepper Farms, was partnered with and actually owned by another corporation. I know that nobody knew this. Very few people were even aware that this was the case, because our production, our systems, everything was in place and working just as it should be. People would go, they would put in promo code JDR at prepperfarms.com. They would receive the maximum possible discount, as always, and then they would get their long-term storage beef. What you didn't know and what we can now explain now is that this year in 2025, we have gone back to the original ownership structure. And I'm very excited about that, because that puts me finally back more in charge. And I am super excited about that concept, not because I crave power by any means, but because I feel that as an America First veteran-owned company, that we need to focus on helping Americans to prepare for whatever is to come, whether it's natural disasters or emergencies or de-dollarization, food crises, bird flu, whatever it is. we do expect something to happen, which is why we built prepperfarms.com in the first place. The idea here is to get high quality, all American, all Texas beef, the good stuff, ribeye, New York strip, tenderloin, all of that good stuff, and freeze dry it naturally to give it a 25-year shelf life. We don't add any preservatives. There's only one ingredient, and that's beef. Lasts 25 years in the bag, and that's awesome. So support this show, support me, support yourself and your family. Protect yourself for the future by stocking up on long-term storage, high-quality beef. Go to prepperfarms.com. That's prepperfarms.com. Use promo code JDR, and you will receive the maximum possible discount. Prepper Farms. Just got to say it. Prepper Farms. I love the name. At some point, Lord willing, we're able to get some real traction on this show. Oh, that's right. That's what I was going to do. Hold on real quick. There was something that's like, oh, I'm going to take a break, and when I go on break, I got to do something. And I spent 2 minutes trying to remember what the heck I was going to do. You were going to do something, Rucker. What was it? Oh, darn it. Now I remember. I always forget to pin my story, my live stream at the top of my X account. I should do that first thing. I got to get into that habit because it's very important. And if you're watching on X or Rumble or YouTube or Getter or BitChute or wherever you're watching, please be sure to do the appropriate action, whether it's subscribing and liking or thumbing up or reposting or re-gettering. What do they do? I don't know. And I love Getter. I just don't spend nearly enough time there to have any idea what the action. I guess it would be repost, probably same with X, but you get the idea. We need subscribers, we need shares, and we definitely need likes because they tell me, and when I say they don't actually talk to me, but I hear other shows say it helps with the algorithm. So help me with the algorithm by pushing that like smash. That's what they say. Smash that like button. Boom. Gosh, we're going to get big. And when we do get big, I'm going to buy a farm. I'm going to call it Prepper Farms. We're going to grow only regenerative and organic stuff there, and we'll have regenerative, grass-fed and finished cows and chickens that are out there eating grubs and stuff and, living normal lives the way God intended, and then we'll slaughter them and eat them or freeze-dry them and send them to y'all. Prepper Farms. Gotta get it big. Gotta get them all. All right. Let's see, what do we got? Oh, the good news. Right. Let's start off with, I've got a couple of good newses here. A couple of good news videos to play. Let's start with this one. Hold on real quick. Sorry. Go this. This is interesting.
I believe that was 2019. There has been a previous crash. I'm not sure of the date of that, and I don't have that in front of me right now, involving jet rescue. We're working to learn more about their safety record. But as I say, they are a Mexico-based company. And as we understand it, all 6 of the people on board that flight were from Mexico, including a young girl who had been in Philadelphia at Shriners Hospital, as we understand it, getting what is being termed life-saving treatment. The crash happening obviously very suddenly, as you see on that video, the aircraft plunging into the ground at a huge rate of speed and a very steep rate of descent. Joining us now with more on this, Jonathan Gilliam. Jonathan is a former FBI agent and a former federal air marshal. And Jonathan, I assume as investigators begin looking at this, you can't rule out anything at this point. We've had a lot of guests, former pilots, etc., talking about the possibility of some sort of catastrophic mechanical failure. But in the early going, I assume investigators also have to look at the possibility of some sort of deliberate sabotage, either before the plane took off or some sort of deliberate explosion prompted when it was in the air?
I mean, that's a possibility. I don't see that occurring, with this type of airplane. So if it was a terrorist, if we went historically on what a terrorist would type of aircraft that they would utilize to carry out an attack, it would not be, or it hasn't been this type of an aircraft historically, because the bang for your buck, as far as a terrorist would be concerned, would be minimal as far as what they typically are going for. So I don't.
Right.
I'm not
If
saying
it
you
was
should rule
something
that
like
out.
that in this case, Jonathan, it would be, you'd have to think that it was some sort of targeted attack, and we would have no reason to think that at this point. So what is your best bet here, Jonathan?
Well, just from the sources that I've been talking to and listening to all the individuals that you had on there tonight, I mean, it could have been mechanical, electronical, as far as the failure goes. It could be. So one thing I find that's interesting is that when, even for experienced pilots, if you get into a situation where you're actually pushing the throttles forward and you're picking up speed and you're in a cloud, you can feel like the plane is stalling, or that you're pointing. That you're pointing in a different direction you're actually heading. That's why you have to maintain a visual on your instruments, not outside, because your body may be telling you you're doing one thing when you're doing another. And in certain circumstances, if you feel like you're pitching up in the plane because the power is pushing you back in your seat, and you look outside and your body tells you you're going up, you're more apt to put the throttle forward. And if you're diving and you're not actually going up, then you'll just drive the plane straight into the ground, because, as your other guest had said, this altitude, it may seem like a lot, but it's not when you're traveling at a high rate of speed. It's seconds.
Right.
So
right.
I think what we're going to see is in line with the statistics, which show that the number one cause of airline accidents is typically pilot error. And I think that's probably what we're going to see here.
Right, and we have heard from CB Cotton on the ground and others that it was a pretty cloudy and foggy night in Philadelphia. And what you mentioned about the disorientation takes me back to John F. Kennedy Jr. in, I think it was July 1999. That was exactly what happened to him, that disorientation. You talk about how
you mean Hillary Clinton happened to him? Whatever. I'm not feeling suicidal. Just let's get that out there. I have no desire. Not gonna mention Hillary Clinton again. Did it again. Dang it. Anyway, yeah. So again, isolated cases. If we had, just by itself, the helicopter, the Black Hawk, inexplicably running into a jet on a clear night, experienced pilots, no. Yeah, then it'd be like, okay, so that's something weird. 2 days later, a jet points immediately after takeoff, points its nose straight down and accelerates. And at no point, from what we can see in the video, at no point, even after they get out of the clouds, they can see the ground. It didn't seem like even just a quick instance of trying to pull up. There was nothing. They just down like a missile. Because there's these two separate incidences so close together, I feel there's a chance. I don't know what that chance is. Maybe it's 10%, maybe it's 3%, maybe it's 50%. But it feels to me as if there's a chance that this was an attack. And nobody, of course, in legacy media is going to say, what about remote? Could they be hacked and remotely controlled? The real kicker on all of this will be if we get to hear from the pilots themselves. If we get, obviously not live, but if we get to hear their interactions with the FAA, with air traffic control, then that changes everything. But I don't know if we will. I've heard two different recordings from both incidences. In neither case did you hear from the pilot. You always hear from the pilot. No, mayday, we're going down. Lost flaps, lost whatever, decompression, something happened. Okay, and they're talking. In this case, we haven't heard anything. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I hope I am. I have to be very clear about that. I hope I am. This is one of those scenarios where I pray to God that I'm wrong. Because if this are remote terrorist attacks, then we're in bad trouble. I don't even want to speculate. For those who new to the channel, be sure to like and subscribe. I've got Fox News up there, so I'm watching for any updates. I hadn't heard that there was a previous crash of this from this company, or the Mexican company that flies these Lear jets. I had not heard before this that there was possibly another crash at some point in the past. So we'll see. But I will be monitoring this. I'll cut back to them if there's anything important that breaks. In the meantime, let's get on some other stories. And let's get on to some good news. Okay, I'm going to start off. This particular story is I consider to be fantastic news because it takes one of my favorite companies in the whole world. I don't eat their food, to be clear, but I appreciate the concept of Goya Foods. I really do. Okay. This is a company that has done things the right way. They represent capitalism as capitalism should be. They represent freedom as freedom should be. And so I appreciate that. And they're getting with Tom Homan and working on saving children, finding the missing illegal aliens, the migrant children, the sex trafficked children. This is awesome. Watch this.
Sean Simpson.
Goya Cares is teaming up with border czar Tom Homan and investigative reporter Sarah Carter to launch an initiative aimed at locating over 325,000 missing illegal migrant children for Human Trafficking Awareness Month. Here to discuss is Goya CEO Bob Unanue and Fox News contributor Sarah Carter. So back in the summer, myself and Will and Pete interviewed Donald Trump. I asked him directly, will you find these children who are missing? And he said, yes, of course. And I was so heartened to learn that he was already starting on this right away. As soon as he won, he got Tom Homan on it. So, Bob, I'll start with you. What is Goya doing to help Tom Homan in the search for these children, which is so tragic?
Well, what a difference an election makes, right? And people who care about, this past administration has been active in bringing in people, not just from the northern southern border, but a parole system where we're flying people in from Nicaragua, Haiti, Venezuela, and Cuba. But we were involved in the movie Sound of Freedom, where we became aware of this tremendous evil of trafficking, and so with that awareness, we formed a coalition of different people, organizations to raise awareness. We're going into schools with people like Monique Bear, Crime Stoppers, different groups to bring awareness to this problem, because before that we weren't aware that this last administration was actively bringing this in. We've gone from 85,000 children missing to 340,000, but they're not missing. They've been sold. They're purchased basically and then handed off to sponsors. 40 children at one address, that's not a home.
No.
It's a business.
You're absolutely right. And I love that you're going into the schools, Bob, because so many of these kids are ending up in the school system. And you're able to give the signs and let them know that there's help for them and resources should that happen. But obviously, this is going to take law enforcement, right, Sarah?
Oh, it's going to take a huge cooperation with federal, local, state, law enforcement officials, as well as, I think, our partners in the Western Hemisphere. There's no way to stop this kind of crisis alone. I mean, everybody has to be working together. Bob's right. With Goya Cares, we're able to get out there and educate students in the schools. We're able to find, within the communities, those kids that may be trafficked, that may be afraid. They can go to someone, feel safe, and report what's happening. And then, but it's the aftercare.
That's what I want to know. What happens after you find them? What is happening to these children? The Biden administration, Tom Homan, you guys find them, and then what happens?
Well, I think that the very first thing is mental health. I mean, a lot of what we're dealing with now and finding their parents, their actual guardians, because a lot of these children have come into the country, have disappeared into homes where they're being sold, as Bob has stated. So we need to locate their guardians. One thing I can say, Rachel, I spoke with President Bukele. I've been to El Salvador a number of times. We know that children have been trying to contact relatives. HHS has a hotline. Some of these children have called that hotline. These children are going to find their way back to safety because Tom Homan is going to be leading that effort with President Trump. And the people who are trafficking these children in the United States need to be held to the full extent of the law. They absolutely have to be punished. There is no way that we can allow this to continue to happen. We're a nation that is based on principles and morals, and we can't sit around and we can't accuse anyone else of doing anything if we're not willing to take care of the problem that has happened in this country because of a wide open border under President Biden.
Well, Bob, as you know, we were complicit in this. The Congress, the Democrats refused to do DNA tests on these children, and then they handed them off to people we don't know. They're telling me I have to wrap. One last sentence from you, Bob.
This is the biggest industry in the world. It's the money and the power, that we seek, and this administration, who cares about our kids, they're going to solve this. We've already not 1 week into this administration, and we're already saving thousands of people.
It's unbelievable, and it's remarkable what you've done, Sarah and Bob. There are very few CEOs who want to take on an ugly issue like this. God bless you for putting your efforts and your money behind something.
Very
like this.
few presidents.
And
that
very
is
few
true.
presidents. Amen to that. Thank you, Bob.
Apologies for such a long. I didn't realize it was that long. Once I saw it was that long, it's like, okay, well, I might as well go grab some brisket. It's been calling my name for the last hour and a half. Yeah, so have me a nice little brisket break while you guys watch that. Great news, though. Again, I love Goya Foods. I love Tom Homan, and I love their mission of trying to locate these children. Yeah, this has been, it's one of those topics that makes me spit. I literally spit on air whenever I talk about the topic, so it's good to have other people talking about it. And here's the thing, we are... Oops, hold on one second. They're seeing if there's new news yet over at Fox. It looks like they're repeating the same thing. Okay. We are monitoring, if you just joined us, we are monitoring what's happening with in Philadelphia with the Learjet crash. We do have speculation. We have no evidence, but at this point, speculation because of the nature of these two crashes over the last 3 days. We have speculation that we can discuss, the possibility that it seems in both cases, if these were attacks done remotely, if these two, the Black Hawk helicopter and now this Learjet, if they had been taken over, droned, so to speak, then if these were trial run attacks, they would have gone exactly the way that they've gone. And in both cases, it felt as if the pilots had ample time to be able to not crash. And in both cases, we don't hear, or in neither case do we hear from the pilots, from the FAA recordings. And now, in both cases, we have these crazy crashes also very visibly in major metro areas. Circumstantial, okay? I have no evidence that we're under attack. It just feels like it's possible. That's it. All right, so, back to, and I'll be breaking in whenever I see any news popping up there. But for now, let's talk more about the border. Obviously, trying to save the children, very important. And trying to get rid of these illegal aliens, these criminal illegal aliens, at least for now. This is extraordinarily important. But a lot of time, you've got these school teachers out there that are making TikTok videos, thanks to Trump. They're allowed to do that. But they're making these videos saying, look, here's me locking the classroom, which sounds like a fire hazard to me, but locking the classroom in case ICE agents come, because ICE agents are going to come for these kids. Well, actually, according to an article over at the Epoch Times, 97% of ICE deportees thus far had removal orders under the Biden regime. These aren't just removal orders like, oh, we're going to get rid of these guys. 97% of those who have been deported so far were ordered to be deported by the Biden-Harris regime. Addressing reporters, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt provided background on some of those who have been arrested by ICE. This comes to us from Jackson Richmond over at the Epoch Times. Of the illegal immigrants deported so far under the Trump administration, 97% of them were under a removal order from the Biden administration, the White House press secretary said today, or yesterday technically. Since President Donald Trump took office, there have been at least 5,537 arrests of those in the United States illegally, according to ICE. Addressing reporters, Leavitt provided background on some of those who have been arrested by ICE. In Chicago, the agency apprehended on January 27th a Guatemalan convicted of solicitation of a minor. The following day, ICE arrested a South Korean in Atlanta who was convicted of 9 counts of possession or control of material depicting minors in sexually explicit conduct. Oh yeah, you better lock up those schools because of the ICE agents, not because of illegal aliens. Criminal illegal aliens. No. It's those ICE agents that Tom Homan's going to send to schools to pick up that dreamer in kindergarten or something like that. These people they have no idea. Same day, the agency arrested in New York a Mexican national previously charged by the state of New York for attempted murder and possession of a weapon and assault. Also on January 28th, ICE apprehended a Mexican citizen convicted of child pornography possession. She said, if you are a criminal illegal alien, you will be arrested and deported. Now, the question I have to ask these woke school teachers is how many of their students are criminal illegal aliens? How many of their students are in possession of child porn or are charged for murder or theft or anything? How many of their students have been ordered by the Biden-Harris regime to be deported? Because 97% so far of those who have been deported were ordered out already by a judge under the Biden-Harris regime. They just didn't enforce it. That's it. I mean, this really just comes down to enforcement, right? This really just comes down to the members of the Homeland Security, whether it's in Department of Border Patrol, Customs and Border Protection, going back to the old Border Patrol days, Customs and Border Protection or ICE, one way or the other, they are being empowered to do what they should have always been doing the entire time. That's it. We're not talking about, oh my gosh, we're going to hire the jackboots to come in and knock down kindergarten doors to send away the whatever. It just doesn't make any sense. Back to the article. Since taking office, Trump has taken a hardline stance on immigration and border security, signing numerous executive orders aiming to stem the flow of illegal immigration and remove from the United States those in the country illegally, prioritizing violent criminals. Now, look, I have been pretty much very hardline about this myself. I, as a legal immigrant, have called for the removal of all illegal immigrants. That's just me. Maybe I'm crazy, but I think that they have all broken the law by crossing the border. If they want to file for asylum, great. Most asylum cases, if they're ever heard, which a lot of times they're not because the asylum seeker doesn't show up, but most asylum cases will be rejected because you do not get asylum because you're seeking a better life in America. That's how you go through legal immigration. You don't file. You don't go through the asylum route. That's for people who have been persecuted based upon their faith, their political views. These are people who have a realistic expectation that if they were to remain in their nation, that even if they do absolutely nothing wrong, they will be arrested and possibly even killed by their own government. That's what can get you asylum. It's not, wages are really low in Venezuela, crime is really high, we'll be safer in America. That's not, you can't get asylum for that, folks. It's just not how it works. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. But if anybody can still claim asylum, and if they do, they can stay in Mexico and wait for their asylum hearing in 2029. I'm good with all that. See, I'm not heartless. I'm not heartless at all. One more quick video. This one is much shorter, I believe, than the last one. Let me find it first before I say that. It's of my buddy, my favorite guy, favorite dude in all this stuff, Tom Homan. Gosh, I think this is it. I don't know if I got it ready. I apologize if I didn't, because it is good. I don't want to take the chance. If this is the wrong one, I'll just cut away real quick.
And I got
It was the wrong one. Dang it. That was the last video I was going to add. I'm not going to tell you what it is, because then you'll be mad that I didn't include it. Let's cut back real quick to Fox News, see if they have any important updates. Okay. I'll get back to them if they say anything important. I will have to review the videos. If it's possible, and I hope this is the case. They're saying that there appeared to have been a fire on the jet before it hit. I hadn't seen that. I've seen lots of different views. Did that look like it was on fire? Did those look like it was just the standard lights? I don't know. You guys can't see it. I was looking at a recent replay. We'll find out. I hope that's the case. Look, the last thing that I want is for this to be the worst case scenario that we've discussed throughout the night, which is the possibility that this was a terrorist attack. That both of these two crashes the last 3 days have been terrorist attacks where these vehicles were remotely controlled and then caused to do what they did. I don't want that to be the case at all. And I don't know if it's a 3% chance that that's the case or a 10% chance or even a 50% chance. I just know that the other option, which is that these are just two very unfortunate accidents that happen to happen in close proximity, both physical proximity. Philadelphia is very close to Washington, D.C., as well as time, 3 days apart between two major crashes in major metro areas. I don't believe in coincidences, but if in this case, if this really is two accidents that just coincidentally happen like this, awesome. I mean, obviously not awesome. It sucks that there were people that died, but awesome that we're not under attack. I don't want us to be under attack. I think a lot of times conspiracy theorists, we get this bad rap of, we're hoping that the New World Order comes and kills us all. We're hoping that 5G is going to activate the vaccines and all of a sudden everybody's going to turn into zombies. No, we're not hoping for it. Well, I don't know about anybody else. I'm not hoping for any of that. I want things to be like they were when I was a kid, where it's like the worst thing that could possibly happen is that we got to worry about, maybe the Soviet Union's going to beat us in the Olympics, right? I mean, I want to go back to simpler days. I would love for that to be the case. I would love to not have to worry about whether artificial general intelligence and eventually artificial superintelligence is going to take over the world. I don't want that. Oh, and okay, so here's the thing. Just as a quick side note, regarding artificial general intelligence, I got this long, and it was a very thoughtful, extremely thoughtful email from a listener who was explaining why they're not scared of artificial intelligence. And they said they started off by giving me kudos. I'm glad that you're saying that it's not going to be Skynet, that Skynet's not going to kill us, but I'm not seeing the real threat here of the other aspects of artificial intelligence affecting us. If it's not going to be Skynet, if there's not going to be robotic crocodiles with jetpacks and bazookas flying around killing us, then we shouldn't really have to worry. All we have to do, as in this case, in this conversation, as Bible-believing Christians, is to avoid artificial intelligence in our own lives. And then we'll be fine. And that's when I realized, oh, of course, that might be why that understanding, that perspective might be prevalent. And it could be why this doesn't get nearly as much attention. And it's my fault. It's people like me who are screaming about artificial intelligence that maybe we're assuming a very important piece of information when it comes to how artificial intelligence, then artificial general intelligence, then artificial superintelligence, how these things are going to affect us. We can't stick our head in the sand. It's like, oh, well, we'll just avoid AI altogether and we'll be fine. No, it's not the artificial intelligence itself that will get us. It's the people driven by their desire to utilize artificial intelligence that will affect us, that will push it onto us. They will make it practically impossible for us to avoid the impacts of artificial general intelligence and artificial superintelligence. And it's not just, oh, well, we'll just avoid all people. I mean, are we going to alter an Amish? That might be the only quote-unquote solution. And I don't know if that's going to be a solution at all either. I mean, the only quote-unquote solution might be to get a hidden bunker in a cave in Idaho, okay? And I'm not suggesting that, though it probably wouldn't be a bad idea. I'm just saying that it's not the AI that you can avoid. You can avoid the AI. What you won't be able to avoid, what I won't be able to avoid, what none of us will be able to avoid are the people who are driven and eventually guided by and eventually controlled by artificial general intelligence and artificial superintelligence. They will gear their lives around it, and they will defend it as much as possible. You think that you had the vax and the mask nannies out there, pushing the vaccines, that was an important part of their lives? Just wait until you've got these people. They're going to end up becoming the equivalent of AI zombies. These people are going to try to infiltrate our lives in every way possible. It will make it to where, if you, let's say, just as an example, you have a medical need, a need for a certain pharmaceutical or series of pharmaceuticals or some sort of medical treatments where you're dependent upon access to pharmacies or access to hospitals in order to live well or even in order to survive. You really think that by avoiding AI that you're not going to be forced into interactions with not just AI, but people who are driven by and eventually controlled by artificial intelligence? Of course you'll have to deal with these people. We can't stick our heads in the sand on this. Okay? The only thing that we can do is to prepare ourselves as best we can, prepare our families as best we can to be able to be completely and totally self-reliant, as close to completely and totally self-reliant as possible. I know not everybody can do it. I know it takes resources. There's a reason why I'm out here in California, right? There are a few reasons. But if I were, super rich and could go wherever I want, I wouldn't be here. I can tell you that. And you might be like, well, but isn't it more expensive here? Yeah, absolutely it is. But there are assets here, things here, resources that I need for my family that I can't get anywhere else. Not yet. So it would take a lot more money to leave California for me personally than to stay. But that's my situation. We all have our various situations. All we can do is strive to be independent, strive to be self-reliant, self-governing, and to, of course, do all of this stuff through prayer and through reading our Bibles and belief in the Lord Jesus Christ. That is going to be how we get through this, not by saying, oh, well, I deny AI and I won't participate in anything that has AI involved with it. That's not going to work. It's like saying, you know what, I'm going to do, launch an online business. I just won't go on the internet. Right. AI will become, at a certain point in the very near future, it will become ubiquitous. It will become an aspect of our lives that for the vast majority of us will be completely unavoidable. Right now, for example, you have apps on your phone. What happens when those apps are replaced by AI agents? You think, well, what are AI agents, or how will that, I'll just keep the old school apps. What if the old school apps are all replaced by AI agents? Because that's going to happen very soon. Anyway, enough of that. One more quick break, and then we'll get back. See, they're on break over at Fox News, so I'm going to go on break. Just a 60-second break, and then when I get back, we will. I think I got like 7 other stories. We'll try to get through them. We can do it, you and me. Stay tuned.
A large retail store just canceled a huge order, leaving us with a ton of extra MyPillows. But you know what? That's their loss. I'm going to make it your gain. For the first time ever, you get standard classic MyPillows for wholesale prices, only $14.88. I can't believe I'm even saying that. Only $14.88. But it gets even better. For a limited time, I'm going to offer my entire classic collection at wholesale prices. Upgrade to a queen size MyPillow for just $18.88. King size only $1 more. Get my body pillows for $29.88 and multi-use MyPillows for only $9.88. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on the screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of wholesale pricing for the first time ever on TV, including my standard size MyPillow, only $14.88. They've never been offered this low before. We have limited quantities at this price, so limit's going to be 10, and once they're gone, they're gone.
All right, what do we got? This is a juicy story from Friday. You got Hakeem Jeffries. What do they call him? Dollar Store Obama. There we go. I've heard that name. Dollar Store Obama. Democrat leader Hakeem Jeffries calls to fight Trump's agenda in the streets. That's pretty ominous. Pretty ominous to be saying such words, especially considering that there's already appears to be an uptick in violence, considering there was already somebody with a transgender domestic terrorist trying to throw a Molotov cocktail at Trump's cabinet picks this week. Might not be the best time for Mr. Jeffries to say take to the streets. According to the article over at Breitbart, Democrat Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries is facing blowback after calling for supporters to fight President Donald Trump's agenda, not only legislatively, but, quote, in the streets. He said, right now, we're going to keep focused on the need to look out for everyday New Yorkers and everyday Americans who are under assault by an extreme MAGA Republican agenda that is trying to cut taxes for billionaire donors. Are they ever going to give up on that false narrative? I need to know. I got to know. And wealthy corporations, and then stick New Yorkers and working class Americans across the country with the bill. I mean, every aspect of that statement was a lie. That's not acceptable. We are going to fight it legislatively. We're going to fight it in the courts, and we're going to fight it in the streets, he said. I'm not going to play it because you don't want me to play it. The message does not seem to be new, mirroring similar messaging to House Democrats during a House Democrat caucus virtual emergency meeting this week discussing ways to oppose Trump's MAGA agenda. House Democrat, this is a quote from The Hill, Jared Huffman, said, according to The Hill, Jared Huffman is a Democrat congressman. House Democrats are now fully engaged. The bell has rung. I think we see this for the constitutional test that it is, and we're going to be aggressively pushing back. Leader Jeffries described it as a legal fight, a legislative fight, and a street fight, and I couldn't put it better. Democrat Representative Jerry Connolly of Virginia described the move as a broad call for action and a vigorous one. But to some, Jeffries' call to fight in the streets is all too reminiscent of the days of violence over the summer of 2020, the summer of love, as they said in Seattle. Of course, many cities in the nation burned as a result. And not very many people were held to account for that idiocy. We do have an opportunity here for unity. And it's going to take us. I'm not talking about us as a nation. I'm talking about you and me. I'm talking about us trying to get our friends, our cohorts, our people to stop getting so easily triggered. That's the wrong way to put it. To stop focusing at all on what Democrat lawmakers have to say. And we need to get other people, including Democrats, friends and relatives and whoever that are Democrats, to stop listening to those people. They might hate President Trump. I know a lot of them do. They may hate you and me because we don't hate President Trump. I know a lot of them do. But if we can, I know this is going to sound crazy, but if we can get them to just for a short period of time think logically, it would behoove them to gain a better understanding of what this so-called Trump agenda is, what the MAGA agenda truly is, so that they can, even if it's defensive, if they want to figure out, hey, I need to, if they want to go, Selena Gomez says that the children are under attack. Okay, well, let's actually look at this and see, are the children under attack, or are we deporting criminal illegal aliens, 97% of whom were ordered out by the Biden-Harris regime? I mean, do you want to get your facts from Hakeem Jeffries and Selena Gomez, or do you want to get your facts from, say, Carolyn Leavitt? We need to get people to pay more attention to the narrative and the news that's coming from us, not from legacy media. News that's coming from the White House press staff. News that's coming from people like me. And this isn't, trying to lift myself up here, even though you probably should go ahead and now's a good time to press the subscribe and the like button. But no, this is about trying to get people, achieving unity amongst the people by getting them to stop listening to Hakeem Jeffries. He is irrelevant. I mean, he legitimately is irrelevant. He is the Senate or the House Minority Leader, which means he has about as much power to sway legislation. He has about as much power as I do or as you do. If the GOP, and I know it's a razor-thin majority, but if the GOP, if Mike Johnson can do his job, if President Trump can help to lead them, to guide them with the help of JD Vance, then I do believe that even with a razor-thin majority that we can demonstrate proper unity on the vast majority of issues that we're going to be addressing over the next 2 years, and hopefully, Lord willing, 4 years, if we can maintain majorities in both the House and the Senate during the 2026 elections. But even if we don't, we've got 2 years to get this fixed, as much of it fixed as possible. And I think the way to do that is to try to achieve unity without having to pander to Selena Gomez and without having to react or respond to Hakeem Jeffries calling for people to take to the streets. That's my rant for the day. Felt good. Let's get to some more. This isn't, again, when I say good news, this isn't necessarily good news. It's news, but there is a positive spin to it because people are finally learning lessons that they should have learned long ago. It's an article from the Epoch Times, 11 years after celebrating opening. Massive California solar plant faces bleak future. And this comes from the Associated Press. This isn't just the Epoch Times spewing right-wing propaganda, as they say. No, this is a real legit story from legacy media, but whatever. What was once the world's largest solar power plant of its type appears headed for closure just 11 years after opening, under pressure from cheaper green energy sources. Meanwhile, environmentalists continue to blame the Mojave Desert plant for killing thousands of birds and tortoises. The Ivanpah solar power plant formally opened in 2014 on roughly 5 square miles of federal land. I think I've actually seen this now that I think about it. I have seen this. Wow, I had no idea. Crazy. 2014 on roughly 5 square miles of federal land near the California-Nevada border. Though it was hailed at the time as a breakthrough moment for clean energy, its power has been struggling to compete with cheaper solar technologies. PG&E said in a statement it had agreed with owners, including NRG Energy Inc., to terminate its contracts with the Ivanpah plant. If approved by regulators, the deal would lead to closing 2 of the plant's 3 units starting in 2026. The contracts were expected to run through 2039. Now, here's the moral of the story. This, you might think, oh, what's the big deal here? Moral of the story is this. We often focus on the science of climate change, especially on shows like mine. But there is a certain thing we have to, and we should, because they're doing it, they being the radical left. They're focused on the business of climate change. We need to focus on the business of climate change, too, to an extent. And that focus isn't just trying to stop green companies, okay? That's part of it. But the bigger part, I think, is learning that the true long-term business surrounding clean energy, I'm not going to call it climate change, I'm not going to call it net zero. We should hope for clean energy to eventually emerge. You know, I'm an oil guy. Drill, baby, drill. Natural gas, awesome. Right? Coal, dig. I used to live in West Virginia. Okay? Dig, baby, dig. Whatever. But here's the thing. Long term, we should strive for cleaner energy. Not because of some artificial, manufactured mandates from government, but because in the long term, it does make sense. From a financial perspective, it makes sense. The business of climate change should truly be around development through scientific research, not trying to meet a goal or an agenda to where we're going to generate this many kilowatt hours through wind energy by this date. No, it should be, how do we produce energy, whether it's through solar, hydrogen, nuclear, that's the important one, wind, whatever. How can we produce it in a way that makes it cost effective? Let's work on developing these technologies, and then by 2050 or 2100 or whenever the time is, as it naturally progresses, then we can start to make an appropriate, economically sound shift towards clean energy. In the meantime, drill, baby, drill. Okay? That's what, instead of the government saying, Newsom saying, we're going to get rid of gas-guzzling cars by 2035, that's ludicrous. That's stupid. That's damaging. Instead, it should be, let's invest in and help companies like Tesla to develop cars that are better, to develop technology that is safer, to make it to where we can start to generate clean energy at some point, not based around the politics of it, but based around the true economics and science of it. I do picture us having green, full-blown green energy at some point in the next 200 years. We shouldn't try to force it until then. In the meantime, we got very reliable and safe energy, very abundant, and right there for the drilling. Let's use it. Cut back real quick to Fox News. See if this is an update.
spokesperson described both the pilot and co-pilot as very seasoned, adding that the company Jet Rescue Air Ambulance flies 700 missions a year. The images of the crash are terrible. They were captured on people's Ring doorbell cameras. Take a look. This all happened just after 6 p.m. today. You can see there the plane erupting into a huge fireball and those neighbors rushing back inside their homes. We also know that after the crash, several homes caught fire. Thankfully, firefighters were able to get
People out of those homes, and everything is now under control. Now,
Apologies for that.
the really important piece is how this all happened. The investigation is underway. An NTSB investigator is on scene, and more members are coming tomorrow. We've also been talking about the debris field. It's huge. Our local Fox affiliate reporter says he found oxygen tanks from the air ambulance at least a quarter-mile away from the crash.
So sorry about that. I had to have my producer had to step in and tell me that I wasn't actually playing. I'm sitting here. That's really interesting. Did you guys catch all that? You didn't catch it because I didn't have it playing. Apologies for that. Snafu need to get a new producer. Anyway, so what you missed while I was sitting there listening, and it wasn't much, but it was just the fact that when it happened, the fact that this Mexican company flies 700 flights per year. They are experienced with this, and that they're conflicting reports about whether or not there was actually anything that happened to the plane beforehand. You're trying to see on the video, was it on fire before that would change everything if it was, to be clear. But was it on fire? We don't know. I don't think it was. It didn't look like it was, at least the video that I saw. But if it was, that would definitely change the narrative. That would go against my theory, or whoever's theory, that this could be a terrorist attack based upon remote control of these planes. To recap, number one, it looks like we have some more viewers on one of the channels. Number one, be sure to like and subscribe. That's super important. I know we're getting a lot. Doing these every day has helped to expand reach, and that's a good thing, but make sure that you like and subscribe. Super helpful. Super helpful. Number two, a recap of the theory that we have been playing with so far, with the understanding that the most likely scenario is that we have two very unfortunate events that happened, and that they just so happened to occur in close physical proximity to each other, as well as being only two crashes in 3 days, which is all very suspicious. That's the most likely scenario. Now, whether that's a 50% or 90%, that's for you to decide and for us to learn in the coming days. The other possibility, to me, most viable alternative possibility, we'll say, and again, not based on evidence, just looking at the circumstantials that we have seen, is the possibility that in both cases we have two aerial vehicles, one helicopter, one jet, that they were droned, essentially. They were taken control of. Somebody took control of them and flew them into their crashes. So let's talk about what quote-unquote evidence against. Circumstantial, no concrete evidence at all of this theory, but this is why it should be considered. Number one, in both cases, you have aerial vehicles that seem to be able to avoid their respective crashes. We saw especially the video from Friday morning showing that the Black Hawk helicopter was going straight right along the Potomac, that the angle at which it's going, okay, it's flying this way, the angle that the American Airlines jet was coming was pretty much right in front of it, not like directly in front of it, but just off to the side. Okay, bright lights, big jet, maneuverable Black Hawk for an extended period of time. Again, going in the same direction for at least 5 or 6 seconds. That's very strange, because that would tell us that at any point they could have moved. They should have moved. It's not like the jet was like all veering around and it had a straight line shot. And it seems as if the Black Hawk did as well. Then you look at the video from Philadelphia. It's not like, your average small plane crash, large plane crash even. Plane crash You have, they're struggling. Maybe an engine's out, something happens, and they're kind of trying to level out, maybe wobbly, and they can't maintain altitude, so they try to cruise in as a level as possible. No, this one was like a missile. They were pointing almost straight down, and it seemed as if they were accelerating, that they were going as fast as possible shortly after liftoff. Again, not evidence, but in both cases, you felt like, they're one of the things that Fox News keeps saying is that, well, it's a cloudy night. Okay, so it could have been instrumental error. But then you had other people going on Fox News and saying, you can tell orientation, especially considering that, again, they were going very much pointed down. A pilot can feel that. Instruments or not, visuals or not, they can feel that, as well as once they clear the clouds, they see the ground coming at them very fast. There appeared to be no attempt to pull up. At the last second, the last split second, at no point, it seemed as if, again, like a missile, straight down. The other piece of, again, circumstantial evidence is that, as far as I know, we have not heard directly from the pilots in either of these vehicles. We haven't heard Mayday, Mayday. We haven't heard collision warning, this, that, or the other. All we hear are the videos or the audio from the air traffic control itself. We're not hearing what they're hearing, if they're hearing anything at all. And if this is an attack, if there is these vehicles are taken over, turned into drones, essentially, controlled remotely, then you would assume that part of the hack would be to cut off communications. They wouldn't want them on the aircraft to be able to communicate with anybody else. So if this is a dry run of something insane that we don't want to think about, that we don't want to be true, I don't want this to be true. But if this is a dry run of that, I don't know what to do. I mean, just continue to pray, continue to prepare, stock up, perhaps. If you can, don't go out of your way. I don't want everybody, Rucker said to get 2 years supply of toilet paper. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying, stay frosty. Maybe it's time to cut off that Netflix subscription and stock up on ammunition or something. I don't know. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. But I don't want this to be the case, because if it is, and you might, and it's the other note, is that we haven't heard, we still don't know who the pilot is of the first the Black Hawk, which is a little bit odd after 3 days. But some people would say, well, but Sean Duffy and Donald Trump, if this was an attack, we would know about it. I would disagree wholeheartedly. We wouldn't know about it. Not from Pete Hegseth, not from Sean Duffy, not from Donald Trump, not from JD Vance, not from anybody. Because if it's made known that, and somebody, whether it's China or hackers, NGOs, some hacker group, anonymous, somebody domestic, artificial intelligence, maybe ASI is already there and testing the waters. They've already taken control of all the planes. I mean, if any of that were to be true and announced, then every flight in the United States would be grounded for an extended period of time, perhaps indefinitely. And if that's the case, then we would go into martial law and economic collapse in a matter of days. Matter of days. Nothing that even somebody like President Trump could do to stop that. In this scenario where all domestic flights are halted for an extended period of time. We barely survived the halt that happened after 9/11, as you recall. It'd be far worse now, especially if it's like, 9/11, it was like you had terrorists who had to train for months to be able to get on 4 planes, sorry. Well, technically I would say it's 3, but whatever. Don't get me started on the Pentagon. You had terrorists who had to train for these 3 planes and yada, 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 and they're gone. Well, what if it's not 3 or 4 planes? What if it's all of them that could potentially at any given moment be taken over? Yes, I mean, we would be crippled. So again, I'm praying that I'm wrong. I'm praying that this is definitely, that we get news at any moment saying, oh, no, there was an oxygen explosion on that jet and a sudden decompression. knocked the pilots out. Pilot leaned forward, pushed the nose down, and boom. Still sucks because, again, you're talking about 6 people in the aircraft itself and however many people on the ground that were killed or injured. So it was a very bad thing. But at least if that is the case, if that's the scenario, then it wasn't a terrorist attack. It wasn't remote controlled drones. It wasn't artificial general intelligence or the Chinese Communist Party or whatever. It was an unfortunate circumstance that is not likely to be repeated anytime soon. That's what I'm hoping for. That's what I want. Sometimes, again, conspiracy theorists, we get a bad name. It's like, oh, you guys want the New World Order to take off because you'll get more viewers. It's like, come on, no. I want things to be normal. Speaking of normal, let's get a little bit weird. I'm only playing this. I was gonna play it yesterday, but I didn't have it ready. I'm gonna play it today. This is to just change it up because we've been talking about some pretty crazy stuff lately. Right? Been going down some pretty crazy roads, so I'm going to go to the home of craziness. We're going to go to Hollywood, but not necessarily Hollywood. We're actually going to Hollywood actors who are trying to pull out of Hollywood. I know that sounds weird, but as somebody who used to love movies, I used to watch movies, shows with my wife, like every week, sometimes every day. I mean, we loved that type of entertainment. Until we started realizing how demonic it is and how evil Hollywood is and how woke most stories are. And then it's just like, I don't want to do this anymore. I mean, part of the reason that I came out to California in the first place all those years ago was because I thought, hey, if I'm closer to Hollywood, maybe I can finish my screenplay and get it sold off. That didn't happen. But, and praise God for that, by the way. Life would be very different right now. But with that said, let's go ahead and play this feel-good moment. It's the wrong way to put it. This oddity, we'll call it. An oddity out of Hollywood that you probably aren't going to see anything like this ever again.
You ever wonder if this industry of ours is just chasing its own tail?
No. I don't wonder. Restrictions, regulations, nickel and diamond productions, political lectures. Hollywood, it's a flat circle wood, round and round like a record with the sound off.
So what, you just want to turn the record off?
No. I want to change the tune.
You know, I got a CD of Jonas Brothers B-sides, real deep cuts.
Look, this industry's like somebody's memory of an industry, and the memory's fading. I'm talking about a whole new hub for film and television, a renaissance, a rebirth.
How about a wholesale takeover?
Yeah. Small fraction of Texas budget surplus could turn this state into the new Hollywood.
Well, but we're not going to call it Hollywood. We'll call it, like, Fort Worth, Beaumont,
Austin,
Houston,
El Paso,
Longview,
McAllen,
the Alamo,
Frankston.
Yeah.
McConaughey, where are you guys? I'm already on set. Texas has pulled a boatload of money for film incentives last session. This session, the sky's the limit.
No, we heading to Texas, Billy Bob.
All right, well, the barbecue guy just dropped the grub off, so you might want to get on down here. It looks damn good.
Hey, Billy Bob.
Yeah.
You're on in 5.
Okay, thanks, hon. All right, dude, I gotta go.
Yep.
Hey, it's Renee. Renee.
Hey, y'all, just heard from Billy Bob. Told me you're heading to Texas.
That was quick.
That's quick.
Damn.
Well, count me in. I've been hotel hopping in all these other states for way too long. And I get it. I mean, making a production is hard. And if all these other states are going to offer an incentive, then that's where we're going to keep going, you know? I just wish we could bring some of these productions home to Texas.
Well, get down here. Come on.
You know, she makes a good point. Why should all these other states take advantage of this investment, but not Texas?
Exactly. We shouldn't have to shoot in Georgia.
Or in Mexico.
Or South Carolina.
Or Oklahoma.
Oklahoma. Why don't we just keep that money in Texas?
You know, all that money like corporate welfare for big Hollywood studios?
No, Wood, it's not.
Lumber yards, restaurants, hotels, housing, thousands of jobs.
Real Texas business owners and citizens. You see, every dollar spent from this incentive puts $4 back in the state of Texas.
That's good ROI.
Production's happening where incentives are.
Texas has the best land, best culture.
So why not the best incentives?
And look, it's not just films with A-list talent either. It's also the independents, commercials, local music videos.
They utilize local infrastructure. So you got all that out-of-state money going into Texans' pockets.
You're telling me my barber is going to benefit from Texas film incentives?
Maybe not your barber, but barbers. Sure.
You know, it just occurred to me that Texas is bigger than most countries. I mean, we got a greater variety of locations than anywhere.
We got deserts, oceans, we got forest, we got rolling hills. Is there anything we don't have?
It's time for Texas to become the home for telling stories that people want to see and hear.
Sounds like it's time for Texas to roll camera.
Yep. So what do you say, Texas legislature? You don't like what Hollywood's been dishing? Let's take over the kitchen. Yeah.
Anyway, I almost regret playing it because it's not a big deal at all. I thought it was interesting. Matthew McConaughey is a funny guy. He really is. He's very entertaining. I think he's as sincere as Hollywood can get. And that's not saying much. Dennis Quaid, pretty decent conservative, supported Trump this last time around. McConaughey is more of like a liberal. He's a leftist libertarian is basically what he is. Then you have Woody Harrelson, who's sort of a libertarian. I don't know anything about Billy Bob Thornton or Renee Zellweger, but yeah, it would be nice if just to pull power away from Hollywood. It is such a corrupt place, and perhaps if more production moved to Hollywood, maybe there would be fewer child sex traffickers in the entertainment industry. Probably not, but we can hope, we can dream. We can dream of all that. I'm waiting for Fox News to come off break themselves. Once they get off break, then we'll see if there's any other updates. Oh my gosh, we're going on. What is this? Ooh, yeah, going for a bit on today's show, but it's important. This is important stuff, and I apologize for those who are watching late night on the East Coast. Maybe I shouldn't apologize. Maybe this is the right time to be on for a show like this. Competing against George Norrie. Is he still on these times? I don't even know. I stopped watching long ago. Let's see. I'm checking the next story. This one I might have to save to tomorrow. We are going to try, by the way, brief programming announcement. 2 programming announcements. Number 1, we are going to try to do this on the weekends too. I've been doing it Monday through Friday. On the weekends I am the editor, the lone editor of thelibertydaily.com, which is hard. Being from Friday evening until Monday morning, it's just me, which means that I have to rely on people to alert me when there's other stories, just in case, because I do have to sleep every now and then. And so waiting for people to wake me up. But yeah, so we're going to try to do it on the weekends as well. It will be a different type of show because I'll have to be literally working while I'm doing it, but what we call it, bring your audience to work weekend. That's what we're going to try to do. Let's go to Fox News real quick, then I'll do the other programming announcement.
To save lives. Their second priority, to investigate the cause of this crash, an investigation that obviously is proceeding as quickly as it possibly can right now. Joining us now, Jason Pack, former FEMA External Affairs Officer and a first responder himself. Jason, we were talking earlier about the pressures that these first responders face when you get to a scene like that. The flames, extremely intense, jet fuel everywhere.
Doesn't sound like they're going to be giving any more details. So we're going to pull away from there and get on with the next story. The second programming note is that the morning show, which has always been the Frank Speech show, was on hold this week. For those who don't know, Frank Speech has shifted back. They have gone to their roots. They're becoming, again, Lindell TV. And before, they would have 3 different channels going on the Roku, on Rumble. They'd have 3 different live streams going. They've consolidated it down to 1. Okay, they've kept all their best hosts plus me to put on the one. On the one. So it'll be still got Rudy Giuliani, still have Emerald Robinson. They added a Cara Castronova, I think is how she pronounces her name. So all those people plus I don't even know what time slot I'm gonna be on, but I'll have that show, which is separate from the live show. To be clear, it's a pre-recorded show because I have to get it sent to them in the morning. So what I've been doing is prior to last week or this week, I had been doing the 56-minute show and then putting it on my Rumble channel as a morning show and sending it to them, and they put it on in the evening, right? Well, that's returning starting hopefully Monday. But in the meantime, check it out on Lindell TV, and I will be doing the morning pre-recorded show as well as the evening live show. Let's see. Yeah. All right. One more quick video. No, one more quick break because I gotta. We're gonna skip the break. Just go. You wanna help? Go to jdrucker.com/infowars. It's crazy, but we are partnering with Infowars on 2 different fronts. Okay, on one hand, I'm going to be helping to promote the Infowars store. If you go to jdrucker.com/infowars. That's all you got to do. And then buy stuff. And I'll get credit for it. You'll get their awesome stuff. They've got like gummies and stuff that sell very well. I don't know what the gummies have, but apparently people like them because they buy a lot of gummies from there. But yeah. So I got it. And I will get to you guys in chat in here in 1 second. But yeah, go to jdrucker.com/infowars. I'm going to play this video real quick and then I'll get to the people in the chat. This is Carolyn Leavitt responding to a question in a way that we're quickly learning she's very good at responding to these particular questions.
If you could shed any light for us on how the president perceives his use of public profanity, which is a practice that certainly sets him apart from all of his predecessors. Does he regard it as an effective communications device, part of his appeal, or is it something that he lapses into inadvertently, perhaps in times of frustration and later regrets?
I think one of the things that the American people love most about this president is that he often says what they are thinking, but sometimes lack the courage to say themselves. And I think yesterday at this podium, you heard President Trump express great frustration, perhaps even anger, with the previous administration's policies, many of which have led to the crises that our country is currently facing and that this president is focused on fixing.
27 years old. She's younger than my son. It's crazy. Crazy. She's very good at this stuff. So yeah, I'm glad that, and I'll admit, I still wish it would have been Scott Jennings, but then Scott Jennings would have had to leave CNN. He's the only reason that CNN has for anybody to ever watch is to see him owning his leftist cohorts over there. Quick preview of tomorrow's show. Oh yeah, I said I was going to get to the chats. Let's see. What do we miss here? Good grief. Excited to connect with you as well, Fred. Good stuff there. Woody's father was CIA. Yes, that's a very interesting Liberty Talk noted that. I should have mentioned that. Woody Harrelson. Look, if you want to look into some crazy stuff, look at Woody Harrelson's life. Yes, his dad was CIA, and there's all sorts of weird conspiracies surrounding him. Great stuff. Nighttime is the right time. I agree. Really not sure what Bubba's asking. Let's see. Did you ever hear... see, Joe Rogan talk about how all the 60s rock bands were connected to the intelligence agency. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, he was asking about Woody's father. Yeah. No, and I haven't heard that about Rogan, but I will now go look it up. Let's see, I missed it's Ordo Ab Chao. That's, Ordo Ab Chao. That's Order Out of Chaos. That is the Freemason concept, their chant, I guess. I even hate saying the words, but yeah, that's it's Latin for their stance. So good note there. That could be what they're hoping for, why they would be attacking us, if they are indeed attacking us. Yeah. Yeah, good stuff there. See, yes, he said something about Jim Morrison's father being part of the Gulf of Tonkin incident. I had not heard that one before. That's one to explore. Wow. Good stuff there. Oh, yeah, it is a crazy world. I will continue to investigate. I will continue to look into this stuff. I will continue to try to illuminate, not in an Illuminati way, but illuminate in a trying to just shine a spotlight on the things that we need to be talking about. That's the whole purpose of the JD Rucker Show. Anybody who's watched me in the past, you know that I've always been focused. Up until the election, my focus was okay. How are we going to own the libs? What are we going to do to win this election? And let's expose Gavin Newsom and expose Kamala Harris and whatever. Now, I'm trying to get back to what I actually care about, which is number one, the gospel of Jesus Christ. I want to talk about the Bible. I want to talk about faith. I don't want to preach. I'm not a preacher. I'm not a pastor. Okay? I'm not. This isn't going to be the place where you're going to come to and I'm going to be like, okay, turn your Bibles to whatever. That's not me. But I do want to highlight the biblical importance that's of the events that are happening around us. If we are indeed living in the end times, and I think that we very might, we probably are, then we need to be focused on the events that are around us, looking for things that point us in a particular direction. I don't want to say look for the signs, but I'll say it, look for the signs. But then also the conspiracy theory aspect of things, right? There are conspiracies. All we have are theories to try to explain them. So let's talk about them. Let's try to explain them. It was John Kennedy, Senator John Kennedy, the other day or yesterday, I believe, who he's like, we're starting to run out of conspiracy theories because they keep getting proven true. It's like conspiracy theories are beating legacy media like 37-0 right now, and it's true. It seems as if every time we come up with some crazy conspiracy theory, well, it gets proven. After they could sit there and tell us, oh, no, the Hunter Biden laptop, that's Russian disinformation. We're going to stick to that story for a year and a half until it's too late, and then we're going to admit, oh, yeah, by the way, it's not. Yeah. We need to focus our attentions on things, and I'm not saying that politics are bad. I'm going to continue to talk about politics. I'm just not going to fixate on it. And I'm definitely not going to just regurgitate the same things that every talking head, every show host or podcaster on Rumble or YouTube or X or wherever, they take the story of the day and they run with it. It just so happens the last 3 days there've been stories that I've had to run with that are the stories of the day. But that's not always going to be the case. Like tomorrow, for example, Lord willing, if I'm back tomorrow, we'll be talking about how the AI deep state is forming. OpenAI is embedding in government and defense. This is a story by over at The New American that I think is extraordinarily interesting. And we need to see what's happening. What is Sam Altman and ChatGPT, what are they doing? I mean, President Trump is talking about getting investments up to $500 billion into a company that is going to be, at least in part, owned by and controlled by Sam Altman and OpenAI. And now you're telling me they're getting embedded in the deep state? It's like, who is the dog wagging the tail, or is the tail wagging the dog? That's the question that we'll have to find an answer to. What else will we be talking about? 10 burning questions that everybody should be asking about the Black Hawk incident. And by tomorrow, I'm sure I'll have 15 or 20 others, because it seems as if what I thought was probably just an odd thing, now all of a sudden it's like, wow, let's see if there's a conspiracy here. And if there is, let's expose it. And if there's not, let's dismiss it. I am all on board with dismissing and debunking conspiracy theories if they're false. And I am all on board with exposing and disseminating conspiracy theories if they're true. What else we got? Let's see. More AI stuff. Lots of AI stuff tomorrow. This is the fun one. I wanted to talk about this. We're going to be talking about Gen Z. I had alluded to it earlier in the show. If you want to push rewind, we talked about the 16-year-old Sean Simpson who had gone out there and he murdered somebody. And then when he's in court, he's like all shocked, and I mean truly shocked that they're not giving the judge isn't assigning him a bond so that he can go back out on the streets. I mean, he started wailing and gnashing his teeth. It's like, oh my gosh, what do you mean? You mean after I murdered one person and tried to murder somebody else, I can't just go home? This is crazy. What's wrong with kids today? This generation is weak. And according to a study, this could be the reason why. According to a study that we'll be talking about tomorrow, Gen Zers, they want safety above all else. We can argue that we as a nation, we as a society, have custom built this generation to be very weak, very scared, very, very incapable of doing such things. There was a viral video came out as a comedian who was like, yeah, it's like they say the Gen Zers are taking over, and I'm thinking, okay, so they can't read a map, they can't read or write cursive. They can't do anything without their phones. So if they do take over, it'll be easier. It'll be very easy for us to take it right back, because all we got to do is put all of our battle plans, write it in cursive on paper maps, and they're done. And it's so true. What else? We got, let's see, Gen Z struggles with basic do-it-yourself tasks. It's just tomorrow's going to be a Gen Z rip-on session, and I have 2 members in my family. Hopefully they won't be watching tomorrow. Doge. I'm going to be talking a little bit about Doge and its current successes, but also some challenges that it's already starting to face. How people they want us to be weak. They, being the powers that be, want us to be weak physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, and spiritually, so that they will be able to take control of us, and we will be dependent upon them. And when I say we, I'm not talking about you or me, because we'll be fine. But other people will of course have their challenges. DeepSeek, the rise of China's open source AI amid U.S. regulatory shifts and privacy concerns. So yes, tomorrow's show should be big. I'm going to take one more stab, see if they say anything important over there at Fox News. Stand by.
Crew and pilots who were also lost in the tragic event, as well as all of the people who were affected on the ground. And we're thankful to the first responders for their quick action. The company, again, of the plane said the flight's final destination was Tijuana International Airport, but the flight was going to make a stop for fuel in Springfield, Missouri. A company spokesperson described both the pilot and co-pilot as very seasoned, and he said the Jet Rescue Air Ambulance Service flies 700 missions a year. He also said at this time he can't confirm any survivors. And yeah, when you look at the video, you can see why. The images of the crash were also captured on people's Ring doorbell cameras. This all happened just after 6 today. The plane falling through the sky, erupting into a huge fireball. Several homes also caught fire. Thankfully, firefighters were able to get people out of those homes, and everything is now under control. The investigation is underway into how this happened. An NTSB investigator is on scene, and more members of the agency are coming in tomorrow. And we've been talking about this debris field, how big it is. Our local Fox affiliate reporter says he found oxygen tanks from the air ambulance at least a quarter mile away from the crash site. And now let's listen to Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro talking about how he thinks this is going to impact his state.
Oh, that there will. Now I'm going to listen to Josh Shapiro. So somebody had noted earlier to me that it looked like it could have been on fire. If it was, okay, and we'll need more videos, and I'm sure we'll get them. If the plane was on fire on its way down, then that's a good sign, because that means that my theory, the concept that this could be drones, probably almost certainly out the door. Then we can say it was definitely some sort of mechanical issue, and we're not under attack. This is why I hope and pray that that's the case. Okay, I was watching those videos. I've seen a few videos. It's hard to tell because of the lights. Now, the one compelling piece that it wasn't, a fire, is that you have the front lights and you have the tail light blinking. Okay, so the lights in between, is that a fire? If it is, then all bets are off. No drone attack. Move on. I just didn't see that, and I hope I'm wrong. I do. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that there was definitely a fire, and that this is just a mechanical failure, and And then we move on, and it was just so happened there were two major air incidences, crashes, over a 3-day period in cities that are very close to each other. I want that to be the case because the alternative means we are in very, very big trouble. Just stay frosty, folks. Keep praying. Stay frosty and keep praying and get ready, get prepared regardless. Whether it's planes or drones, whether it's China or Russia or AI, it's time to get as self-sufficient as possible. Lord willing, I'll be back very soon with another episode. But in the meantime, you all stay strong, stay safe, and God bless.